Then we will call the meeting to order at 6:06 PM with the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, any changes to the agenda?
No, there is not.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No presentations, proclamations, or acknowledgements. At this point right now, I will only take public comment for anything that is currently not on the agenda. So if you have public comment for anything that is not on the agenda, you may approach the podium and state your name and address.
Copy of the agenda. Thank you.
Hi, Jody Lucas, 26501 Xerxes Trail. Hi, here we are again. Hey, a couple of years. What I have a question for is Tom. From the point that Niagara contacted the city via email, phone call, walked in the front door, whatever, till now, how much money have we, the city, spent for Bolton and Mink, LRE, attorneys, testing, I don't know, just anything in general? How much money have we spent?
That's not a question that I could answer off the top of my head.
Have we reached $1 million yet?
It's not a question I can answer off the top of my
Okay,
head.
okay, I'm just wondering. All right, thank you.
We will be able to find that number though, and
If to answer that, I'd need a more specific request of what expenses are being, other than anything in general. What types of expenses,
okay.
to make sure that we,
Just all the money that we have spent.
Explain yourself a little more.
Explain myself? Okay. Testing, plans drawn, attorneys looking over contracts, LREs, testing, projections, just everything that has been done to get to today is what I want to know, is how much money we have spent on permits, on anything and everything that we have done, annex the land, run a pipe, pull electrical, anything and everything we have spent, meaning me and most of the people that live in Elko, what we have spent so this company could be open for business.
so if you could put that in an email and send it to me.
Yeah,
I would
I'd
be happy
happy-
to research that and provide you with that information.
Okay, and then another question is, my son-in-law right here almost was hit by a semi coming out of Niagara. Multiple days in a row. At what point are you going to take responsibility for that? Or just because we annexed in that land, we don't have to be responsible for it? That's the other question that I would like answered, because he's gonna be a dad in a few months, and I'd like him to be around. And I specifically do not take that way anymore, because semis are coming and going. And it's not meant for semis to come and go. So I'd like just to know what we're gonna do, or you're gonna do, the city's gonna do, to control the traffic. Because obviously, I don't want a death to happen for something to happen, because that's what it took to get the stop sign.
I can't speak specifically to the circumstances of which your son-in-law is involved. I drive by that entrance at least twice a day. I have not experienced that when I'm driving through. So if the question, if I can rephrase it, is, are there traffic controls or something required at that intersection? That's more of an engineering question, so I am not the person to ask. I'm not a traffic engineer, nor do I play one on TV. So maybe I can defer that question to the city engineer, Jody.
That's you?
Sure. Yeah.
Perfect.
So there,
Rich, you have a microphone?
I don't have a microphone.
Here, you can come stand by me if you want. I can lower it.
Sure, it's on.
Was that a short joke?
Yep, pretty much.
So I'm inferring that, you're driving on County Road 2 and a semi pulled out?
Yep, he's going to the east. He was coming out.
Okay.
Noah Henry. I live at the same address as they do. Yes, I would have been heading east on County Road 2 at approximately 6:30 in the morning on my way to work in Elko. And multiple mornings have had a semi pull all the way out, ignore the stop sign completely. Car's going 50 miles an hour. I have to lock up my brakes on my truck in order to stop in time.
Yeah.
I honk my horn, and the response I get from the drivers and Niagara trucks is the finger or a, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. So I think the appropriate controls are there, but whether people are obeying them is a different question.
How are
We
the-
can do a couple things. We can notify Niagara that we're getting complaints of drivers not observing the stop signs. And we can also ask our police chief to,
I
if
came
he's
in here.
heard any other questions or complaints about that, or if there's any enforcement action we could
Where
take to.
specifically are the violations occurring at?
The
Yeah.
entrance.
As semis leave the Niagara, the DuPont
On to two?
onto 2.
Yeah, some of that's ours, some of that's Scott County's technically, but we could talk to them about trying to have some extra patrols in the area.
If we're gonna have patrols, are we gonna stop them for doing it? Cause they
see
are,
why-
they are a commercial vehicle.
We see violations, we will stop them, yep. But, you know, we have limited staffing, we'll do the best we can, but I can create a extra patrol request for that area and that time and.
Cause honestly, I'm not worried so much about me going to work in the morning, cause I'm paying attention. I'm worried for the teenage drivers
Yep,
that don't always look at the road. I'm worried for elderly people.
yep.
I'm worried for my wife who's about to have a child,
So
that something
what's
happens and
the
I get a phone
specific-
call at work.
Yeah, I get that.
Because
What's-
then there's gonna be a lot more actions that are gonna get taken.
What kind of timeline are we looking at? Like, when is this happening most often?
6:30 in the morning.
6:30 to 7 AM in the morning.
6:37?
Yep,
Okay.
any day of the week.
Okay, yeah, we'll
Cause
target.
I've had it happen coming east after I get done hunting.
Yep.
And yeah, it's,
Okay, yeah, we can
It's getting
schedule some
nuts.
extra patrols out there.
All right.
Thanks for letting us know about that.
Can we also send a letter to Niagara and make them aware that?
Oh, we'll call them.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else for public comment?
My name is Alex Smith. I live on 4103 Shelley Lane. And I'm just going to piggyback off traffic before I think a lot of people have water concerns. My wife and I moved down here in 2020 to raise our kids in a small growing community, and it's truly been a blessing. We live on Shelley Lane. It's a small road tucked off of Aaron Drive, which leads into a double cul-de-sac. Unfortunately, since school started this fall, I've had 2 close calls crossing Aaron, coming back into the cul-de-sac from the bus stop. There's 18 homes down Shelley Lane. Actually, I have maps if you guys want, if it's, I don't know if it's appropriate to hand those out to you guys quick or not.
Here, you can keep one too if you want it.
Anyways, there's 18 homes down Shelley Lane, that goes into a double cul-de-sac. All of the Lakeville and New Prague students have to come down Shelley Lane and cross Aaron Boulevard, or Aaron Drive, to get to their bus stops. This morning, my wife and I counted 11 students at the Lakeville stop. There's usually 1 to 4 at the New Prague stop. The problem's the eastbound traffic. There's a sharp curve there, 30-mile-per-hour speed limit, and drivers have just a blink of an eye to stop before hitting someone. The one time I was so close to getting hit, there were skid marks in the road. I usually drop my 6-year-old off for first grade, and then I'm walking back to the house with my 2-year-old girl and my 4-year-old girl, and sometimes a family dog, which can really complicate things. So we've reached out to Elko New Market Police Department, who've been great. They put out more patrols during that busy hour, and they put out the speedometer trap. That does help in lowering the general speed on Aaron. Unfortunately, after those interventions are gone, the conditions return shortly after. What I'm asking for is for you to work together with us families that have young kids to somehow make a permanent change after those interventions are gone. That would help make these 18 homes safe crossing Aaron Boulevard to get back, or Aaron Drive to get back out to the bus stop. I would love to invite you guys over any Wednesday morning. I'm home with the younger two. I'll make coffee and you can watch the school buses, the commuters, the kids, the garbage trucks. It's a little bit wild. I believe some of you have school-age children too, and I know that you guys would want to do the most you can to make sure that path to school is the safest. So I don't know what kind of permanent interventions are available. I work in healthcare. I don't work in streets. Whether it's a crosswalk, crossing guard, lights, signage, speed humps by Aaron, or there's speed humps over by Wagner Park, which I think are really helpful. So that's about it. Lastly, I just want to thank you guys for allowing me to come and do my concern. I've never been before city council before, so this is exciting. Your roles can be tough, balancing people's concerns, taxpayer dollars, and I appreciate your job. I love our community down here. I love hearing the sound of families and everything playing in the neighborhood. It's the American dream, and I want to do everything we can to make it safe and keep it that way. Thanks for your time.
Sir,
Thank you, Alex.
sir, did you sign in with a phone number so we can?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Come on over, Folgers, whatever you want. Wednesday mornings.
Do we know, have we, I mean, because my brain goes to less of the things that we were talking about, crosswalks, lights, but have we reached out to the school districts to see if we can move the bus stop so that we scooch it closer towards Francis or,
But we've asked to do that previously in another area where we've had a lot of stop arm violations, and I did not get a lot of cooperation there.
I think if maybe, sorry, I mean, I don't want to assume that they would blow you off again or not blow you off again, but if we put enough pressure on the school districts to do something, I mean,
The challenge would be, where would you move them to avoid the issues of people speeding through there?
Right.
Because if they're speeding, the belief is they're speeding by there, correct? That's the main concern.
By there, so two problems exist.
Yeah.
Further down, Aaron, if you're heading west, there's tons of families with young kids out there, and it's just a wide road. It's a main vein of traffic coming in and out. So in general, it's just a crappy road for kids to live on. The traffic flies there, but also the Holy Cross bus does come down Shelley to the double cul-de-sac, and so I don't know, if we can reach out to the bus, if both buses could come down there and stop too, it would save at least those 18 homes of children crossing Aaron.
So the
but-
Holy bus.
The Holy Cross bus does come down there. Lakeville and New Prague do not.
Makes a turn and help.
Yeah, I think yeah. And I think that the Lakeville bus actually comes down there, but it drops everyone off on Aaron. I think it just comes down there to turn around in the cul-de-sac, but,
I can reach out.
so,
I
I
can't
mean,
promise anything, but
yeah.
I certainly can reach out to the superintendent and.
well, and I think we help amplify that message as well.
yeah, it's right
I
at
mean,
the,
yeah.
at the school, border where half the kids go to either spot, but even so, further down on Aaron, just not talking about my family, but there's a ton of kids and traffic just flies there, and it's just, especially right where that curve is, if you guys see, it's just so when you come out of Shelley, the bus stops are both to the right there, and that's the problem, is when I'm coming back south into Shelley and people are coming eastbound, it just sucks. We end up walking west quite a ways on Aaron to cross, so I can see both ways when I'm crossing with the
Well,
kids.
I will tell you this, when we have put out the speed counters, the ones that can kind of track how fast people are going with, and we can do it in a way they don't necessarily know they're there. The average speed is, as Rich could attest to, is less than usually 30 miles an hour.
Okay.
And the speed limit is 30.
Yeah.
on Drive. But it doesn't mean that we can't look at other ways to maybe slow people down in certain areas, but usually what we've seen in studies over the years is people are pretty consistently at 30 or less.
Yep, and I'd agree with that. It's just that curve.
Yep.
Right at that intersection there is just tough.
Yep.
And little kids are
Well,
kids
at least
kids
from
crossing the road.
a law enforcement standpoint, we can continue to look at having some extra patrols, put the speed trailer back out there, and then I can reach out to the superintendent at the school and see if they'd entertain at least avoiding that curve. putting the stop somewhere else.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. You guys have been great working with.
Well, just an FYI too, the superintendent for New Prague will be here at the next October meeting, so if you
Okay.
wanted to bump into him in the audience and talk
Perfect.
to him, you could.
Thanks, guys.
Anyone else for public comment on anything that is currently not on the agenda?
I have a comment. We're in the back room, and unless you guys speak right into the microphone, we cannot hear anybody talking.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, I have a simple comment. Why are you guys not allowing people to talk about an item on the agenda when I think almost everyone
I'm
is here?
asking you to wait until general business, and then at that point, it will be addressed. And yes, I did plan on having public comment, but please wait until general business. We're gonna have a presentation, and then after that, I will allow public comment, not right now.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment for anything that is currently not on the agenda? Okay. We'll move on to consent agenda. Is there any changes or anything that needs to be pulled and discussed?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Okay. On to general business. So underneath the
Post.
what?
No.
Stephanie, it's not allowing me to share. I sent a request. Okay. I'm sorry.
The first thing under general business will be the concept plan for review of Eagle View Meadows.
Oh, sorry.
I think we have a public hearing on vacation of easements. Item 7.
It's at the very end.
Okay.
Posted for 7 o'clock.
Oh, it changed.
Yep.
From my online.
Okay. Okay, I'll be handling this item. Tonight, we would like to present to the council a concept plan for a residential development that has been submitted by Mr. Joe Sullivan. Joe and his partner Rick Jansen are here tonight if you have any questions for them. This is a concept plan for a 80-acre parcel located in the northwest area of the city. Again, the property is currently owned by Mr. Sullivan. It's 80 acres in size. A concept plan was submitted for city staff to review in 2021. At that point, Mr. Sullivan received staff comments, but never proceeded to obtaining comments or feedback from the Planning Commission or City Council. An updated concept plan was submitted for the city to review in 2025, and the owner is interested in getting feedback on this current concept. This map shows the location of the proposed, or the location of the property in relation to the city. So as you can see, the municipal city limits are shown in a gray, and in the township property is shown in kind of a light green. So it is currently in the township. This is the concept plan that was presented to the city, or to city staff in 2021. And this is the concept plan that was resubmitted to the city in 2025, and which we will be presenting to you tonight. So first, just to review some of the surrounding neighborhood conditions of property that surrounds this parcel. To the south of the proposed development are 2 rural properties. One is vacant land, about 35 acres, and one contains a single-family residence. Both properties to the south are located outside of the city limits, but within the city's planned 2040 growth area and guided for low-density residential development. To the east of the property are large lot rural residential properties that are approximately 10 acres in size, with single-family detached homes constructed on most parcels. The properties to the east are located outside of the city limits, but within the city's planned 2040 growth boundary and guided for low-density residential development. To the north of the property are also large lot rural residential properties with single-family detached homes on most parcels. The property to the north is located outside of the city limits and outside of the city's 2040 planned growth area, but within the city's ultimate sewer service boundaries. So to the north, ultimately, that property is planned to be part of the city. To the west of the proposed development is the Highlands at Eagleview development, which is currently under construction, and also to the west is the Eagleview Elementary School, both located within the municipal city limits. This is the slide shows the city's adopted comprehensive plan, which guides the property to low-density residential. We have to develop, properties have to develop at 2.5 to 5 units per net acre within this designation, and the concept plan does meet that. The concept plan as currently drawn shows 194 lots, and it calculates to 2.7 units per net acre. Just for informational purposes, this slide shows the ultimate sewer service area boundary of the city. As indicated by the red box, this property is within the city's service area. The current zoning authority on this property is Scott County because it's located in Newmarket Township. It's currently zoned urban reserve, and that property would automatically be zoned urban reserve if it was annexed into the city. Any future zoning must be consistent with the city's 2040 comprehensive plan, requiring residential use of the property. Any future zoning must be consistent with the comprehensive plan. And as it is currently been submitted, a PUD zoning would be required unless the city changes its minimum lot size standards before a plat application is received. Oops. The proposed lot sizes are 65 feet in width at the minimum lot size of 8,400 square feet. Proposed front setbacks 25 feet and proposed side setbacks at 7 feet. Just for comparative purposes, the Highlands at Eagleview, the lots platted in the current Highlands at Eagleview to the west are 65 by 120 for the most part. The city does require a tree preservation plan, tree inventory. This parcel is largely agricultural. There are likely very few trees. However, a tree inventory would be required during the platting process. The city does have landscaping requirements. There is extra 20 foot of lot depth required for any lot that backs up to a major collector street to allow for a landscape buffer. There are a number of collector streets adjacent to this property or planned through this property. Nevada Avenue, Dakota Avenue, and 255th Street are all collector level streets, which would require some extra depth to account for landscaping. This slide shows the city's sanitary sewer plan map. It simply shows sewer districts or sewer sheds. This property lies within sewer district W5 as outlined in green on the map. Sanitary sewer service is available currently on the south and west side of the property along Nevada Avenue via a 6-inch PVC force main. This lift station, a lift station and force main are proposed in the Highlands at Eagleview development, and that lift station will also provide sewer service to this entire property. The city engineer made sure that it was designed to handle gravity sewer from this property. Sewer service must be extended through this development and to adjacent properties. This slide shows the city's water plan map. Water is also available currently on the west side of the property. via force main. 12-inch water main or equivalent must be extended through development consistent with the city's water plan. As you can see, this thick purple line that runs through the site depicts a trunk water main. Water service must also be extended through development to property lines to provide connections to adjacent properties. This slide depicts this is stormwater information about the site. The property lies within both the Scott WMO and the Vermillion WMO. The areas shown in crosshatch have higher discharge rates or more stringent runoff rates than allowed in other areas of the city. And this was due to an agreement between the city and the town as part of the school development. This slide just shows existing storm sewer lines. Along the west side of the property, there is a large storm sewer line that was constructed with the school development that extends north through areas in the township and discharges to the surface just north of 250th Street. There are 5 stormwater ponds currently shown on the concept plan that are dedicated to the city in an outlot at the time of development. Access to ponds must be provided for maintenance purposes for city staff. Stormwater ponds must have a vegetative buffer of 10 feet and a 35-foot building setback. Staff are aware that there's an existing drain tile system running through the property which provides agricultural drainage for the subject property and the property to the south, currently owned by Bruce Regis. The existing drainage patterns must be perpetuated. Township representatives have also informed city staff that there may likely be more drain tile that aren't shown on this map. This is these are the tiles that we are aware of currently. There are no DNR protected wetlands, FEMA floodplains located on the property. A wetland delineation was completed by Mr. Sullivan in 2021. It's valid through the end of 2026. There's one small quarter-acre wetland on the west side of the site, which would need to be dedicated to the city at the time of development if it were to remain. Wetland buffer signs are also required. Regarding transportation, the property borders on Nevada Avenue on the west and Dakota Avenue on the east, both of which are identified as major collector streets in the city's transportation plan. And then 255th Street, which exists to the west, is also programmed to continue running east-west through the site. So that would be constructed as part of the development. The purpose of a major collector street is typically to link neighborhoods together within a city or link neighborhoods to business concentrations. Access to major collector streets should be made from local streets, and private access is prohibited. Public street connections to the major collector street should be spaced at least 660 feet apart, which is about an 1/8 mile. And the standard right-of-way for major collector street is 100 feet of right-of-way, and a 32-foot wide street is our current standard with high back curb. Major collector streets require a trail on one side and a sidewalk on the opposite side. So a little bit about Nevada Avenue. There is actually an existing right-of-way platted on the west side of Nevada that's 35 feet in width on this side of the property. The city would require an additional 15 feet, so there'd be a total of 50 feet of right-of-way on this property for Nevada, and that would be dedicated as part of the plat. Only a small section of Nevada is currently constructed at the southwest corner of the plat. And city code would normally require that Nevada is extended north to the north property line of the plat. However, at this time, staff is recommending that may not, does not need to be constructed as part of the plat. The city, Mr. Sullivan also owns a strip of land that's 33 feet in width that extends all the way north into the township up to 250th Street. The city is interested in acquiring that as part of the development process. Dakota Avenue is, I'm going to switch to talk about Dakota on the east side. So that is an existing gravel road. It's currently under the jurisdiction of Newmarket Township. The right-of-way is 33 feet. So again, we would ask for an additional 17 feet of right-of-way as part of the plat. City code would require that Dakota Avenue is constructed or improved adjacent to this plat, and that be improved meaning paved. If the gravel section to the south, so there is a section of gravel street south of Mr. Sullivan's property that is, it's not improved, it's still gravel. If that were to remain gravel, the city would consider that to be premature development. We would not want city traffic emptying out onto a gravel road or having to cross that gravel road without any other route to paved road. So the city's idea or recommendation of staff for Dakota Avenue would be that it be paved from the existing pavement termini at the north edge of, at its north edge, and paved to the north edge of the development. And then rather than surface it with a 32-foot curb and gutter standard, which is our standard for new streets, that we allow it to remain with a rural section with ditches and pave a 26-foot wide surface with gravel shoulders. And then once paved, maintenance would be taken over by the city. Improvement would be required before any local street connections could be made to it. And that the staff recommends that because the utilities are available on the west side of the property, that approximately 2/3 of the development could build out before needing to extend that street over and improve Dakota Avenue. And a pre-development agreement and orderly annexation agreement could document the city's expectations, city and township expectations regarding Dakota Avenue. The concept plan does show the Collector Street, 255th Street, running east and west through the property. 80 feet of right-of-way is shown on the concept plan. 100 feet is required. So that would be a recommendation included in our staff report. A 10-foot trail is required on one side and 5 feet on the other. The local street connections that are shown on the concept plan do not meet the 660-foot spacing requirement. So that is one thing we'll be seeking feedback from the City Council regarding. The Planning Commission has reviewed the concept plan and did not express objections to that. That will work with the developer to the degree possible to achieve the spacing requirements. Local roads, there are a number of local roads shown within the plat. Temporary cul-de-sacs must be constructed if the street exceeds 150 feet in length. There's one local road on the northeast corner of the plat that is shown to connect to Dakota. Staff recommends that that connection be taken out as it does not meet, again, that spacing requirement and rather just extended to the north. And future road extension signs are required where roads would be extended in the future. Based on the city code, again, sidewalks are required on one side of all local streets. A trail would be required along Dakota Avenue, sidewalks along Nevada, and then along 255th, a trail and a sidewalk. The parks, the city subdivision ordinance requires that 8% of the land be dedicated for parks, playground, or open space, or the developer shall make a cash contribution to the city's park fund, roughly related to its effect on the park system. If no land dedication is required, the park fee has been established by the council at 8% of the fair market value of the land. The estimated park dedication requirement for this development is approximately 6 acres, just over 6 acres. The city's adopted comprehensive plan, park and trail plan, identifies a neighborhood park search area within the southern portion of this property. You can see the green crosshatch that intersects the red box on the slide. A neighborhood park, facilities that could typically be expected within a neighborhood park are shown on this slide here. Playgrounds, ball fields, tennis courts, pickleball courts, ice rinks, benches, picnic facilities. These would be a bigger park than most of the parks that we have in the city today. The Parks Commission has reviewed the concept plan, and they have recommended to the Planning Commission and the City Council full park land dedication for this development, that it be centrally located along the southern edge of the plat, that the land that's dedicated for park purposes have topography and configuration conducive to developing the park with facilities typically found in a neighborhood park, and then the recommendation for sidewalks and trails. They noted that park land dedication as depicted on the concept plan be reconfigured to provide more usable open space. Annexation would be required to develop the property as shown. The developer and owner may petition the city for annexation of the property. If the city does receive a petition for annexation, we would work with the township regarding a joint resolution for orderly annexation. It's an agreement where the city and the township mutually agree to the terms of the annexation, and a pre-development agreement is recommended. Miscellaneous items, staff recommends that a neighborhood meeting be held by the developer in advance of any formal applications to introduce the concept to the neighborhood. City code does require a ghost plat of how adjacent properties could possibly develop. It's something that's required by our subdivision ordinance. It does not indicate city support or approval, but more so is meant to, so that we can ensure proper roadway alignments for future developments. And a traffic impact study would likely be recommended based on the number of housing units proposed in the plat. The Planning Commission did review this concept plan at their August 26th meeting and concurred with 32 comments and recommendations that were provided by staff and also included in the City Council packet. They also recommended to change the roadway alignment on the northeast side of the plat to remove a connection to Dakota Avenue. Tonight, the City Council is being asked to provide feedback to staff and the developer regarding the concept plan, if annexation would be supported based on the proposed plan and use of the property. Feedback is being sought regarding the proposed lot size, the local road spacing on 255th Street, the construction of Nevada Avenue on the northwest side of the plat, and concurrence with staff's recommended conditions. And this is the concept plan.
All right. Well, council, what do you have? Any questions, comments?
Do you want to click through the list? Would that be easier, or put the list back up where you need the feedback? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Annexation of the property into the city would be recommended based on the concept plan. Good?
No questions.
Okay. Yep. Feedback is being sought regarding the proposed lot sizes.
Got no issues with that. And like I said, my question would be, do we have any update for where we're at in reviewing lot sizes across the town or city? And when do we think, do we have an estimated timeline on when or if that might be proposed to change?
I'm hoping to have a solid report to the Planning Commission at the October Planning Commission meeting.
I have certainly no issues with it, so, I mean, I think that's where we're going.
Okay. Anybody else have issues?
No issues for me.
No. Okay. Feedback being sought regarding the proposed local road spacing on 255th Street.
Could you maybe go back to the
Yeah,
map?
go back to that
One
one.
of the maps with the roads, because I have some questions about the roads.
I-
I mean, maybe not even necessarily the spacing. I mean, I'll defer to Chief and Rich and others for recommendations related to that. I guess I have questions of, so is the one entrance in and out of the place gonna be off of 255th and Nevada at that corner? And will there be nothing there then until 255th goes all the way across and then we're ready to update Dakota?
Correct. So that's where the 2/3 of the development, so just a starting point from staff's conversation is if approximately 2/3 of the development could build towards the east, but yes, they would all be concentrated to that intersection. Or there's another street, I think, to the north that will run east-west through, you can see it better, there's another local road, 253rd Street, just to the north of 255th. It's really light on this, but, I mean, that will technically be another east-west route that they could take, but this being the collector, more of the collector street, it may feel more comfortable to take this.
I mean, part of me, I don't love that. I mean, I've seen Boulder Heights with the one in and out, and we have that stubbed road there on the south side that should get out to Thomas eventually, or Beard Thomas, whatever that is over there. So, I mean, especially if we're not doing anything on the Dakota side, I don't know. I mean, and then to have the stub or not extend north just feels.
Josh, you caught that the developer would be required to improve Dakota.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, and I would even feel better of having both entrances, and then we complete Dakota up to that eastern connection. And I don't know. I mean, I get it, but again, I would defer to chief and fire department, and you know, to have the one in and out. If that one entrance is blocked, are we up a creek if there's an issue in there?
We do have more
No.
than one way in and out, though. There's the north of 255th. There's an east-west that connects from Highlands directly over into this
Okay.
project. So there's an alternate way in and out of this project until that connection is made. So
Okay.
we don't, and since they're building, both projects are building from Nevada, west and east respectively, that does not appear to be an issue.
So then will Nevada go up that far, or are we not extending Nevada at all?
Well,
Because that's where I was confused. It sounded like we weren't extending Nevada at all, so then there'll be an east-west over just a slice of where the road eventually would be?
Correct.
Instead of, would we not be better off requiring the north to extend up to that and have both developers put it in now?
From a transportation standpoint, there isn't a need for that chunk of Nevada until Nevada connects to 250th Street, which is a long time down the road, potentially decades at this point. The connection between the neighborhoods provides circulation, and connectivity between the neighborhoods is important, thus the east-west connection on the local street side. So there's a question of we would be asking the developers to build something which isn't really needed at this particular point in time, and then the taxpayer would be on the hook then for all of the maintenance for that road, the mill, the overlay, the crack sealing, the ultimate replacement, possibly within before it's actually needed for that connection ultimately up to the north.
Something about it I just don't love. I mean, I'm not gonna fight about it or anything, but it just feels like
Well,
we're leaving it incomplete. And it feels like this is a good time to
it's
at
one
least
of
think
the-
about it.
Yeah, it's one of the things on the list that we're seeking your feedback on.
Yeah.
I think from a public safety standpoint, the distances aren't that long where it's that big of a deal for us to only have one entrance.
Okay.
You know, if we were talking miles, that'd be something, but this isn't, for us at least, we're pretty, I haven't seen that as a big issue in this city where we've only had one entrance where it's made some kind of a weird difference or something, so I wouldn't have a big issue with it at this point.
Fair enough.
Good questions. Anybody else? Questions on that? I'm taking that as a no?
No.
Okay. You put the list back up there, Renee, sorry. Construction of Nevada, oh, we just talked about that. And then, do we concur with the 32 staff recommendations as outlined in the staff report? I'm fine with it.
Can we go back to the, the spacing on 255th Street? 660 feet, and I don't know if the city engineer has any comments at this point.
And I would assume it's right as you get into the neighborhood, it's the turning right as you get off of Nevada or Dakota. I mean, that seems like it feels like Aaron Drive and turning right onto whatever that street is right there before Shelley it feels like that might be an issue.
Except that 255th is a major collector, not a minor, so the concern would be possibly in the long term conflicting turning movements for turn lanes and things like that. And we didn't look at it that closely because there is some space. It's a concept plan. We can raise the concern and see what they come back with in an actual application.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I mean, if it's that more major of a road, I would have those same types of concerns coming in and out of there, and then stopping right there, and you're going to be. Do we have a general idea? Is that like a 40-mile-an-hour road? 40.
Typically, there would be a design speed of 40 miles an hour. Yeah.
And that's, one lot, obviously depth before a turn or a stop or whatever. That could get tricky on both sides.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, they might come back with a amended concept that removes some of those.
The only other thing I would say is I fully support the parks dedication. Oh, sorry. I take it back. Amanda wants to talk.
No, you can talk, but it's close to a school. In theory, families are gonna move their playground equipment, I think is very important in the park dedication, and I was very excited to see that there was an actual park dedication and not just the funding, so.
Perfect. Anything else, council?
My only other question is about the ghost plat, because I know before in the past, people have seen that and been kind of alarmed because the disclaimer is really small. Can we either notify those property owners that that is happening or have that disclaimer be bigger? And maybe the notification is not a good idea, but I just know we've had comments before and making it very clear that this is not, the way you said it tonight was very concise and digestible. So I would want people to understand it that way too.
Yeah, I think we will take any opportunity to advertise that it's required by code, just to show connectivity for future streets and street alignments aren't going into wetlands and things like that. We'll do our best.
Well, and I think if we just, like Megan said, it was very fine print on there. If we just enlarge that portion of it that says that it's a
Okay.
ghost
Okay.
plat, that would be great.
No, but otherwise, super supportive of the development, and kudos to the developer for, all the work that's been put into it so far, and, yeah.
Yep. All right.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you have any more?
I was just going to ask Mr. Sullivan if he wanted to speak.
Joe Sullivan, Eden Prairie. Council members, thanks for your time and your support. We were here a year or so ago and did Parkway Meadows. Appreciate your help on that one. I think it's going very well. And so we're trying to do something similar here, well-thought, well-designed community. Trying to get a neighborhood going, long awaited by the elementary school. So appreciate your help. And if there's questions now or along the way, we're here to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you get all the direction that you needed?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Next on our agenda is going to be Rich talking about the water quality aquifer test findings. And before you start, Rich, I just want to thank everyone for coming out. I am going to allow public comment after the presentation from Rich. Josh will be timing 2 minutes, so anybody approaching the podium will come up, state their name, their address, and you will have 2 minutes to speak, at which point I ask that you please step away so the next person can come up. And please understand that the council, once you are done with your comments, the council will go into discussion itself, so there may not be answers for you right away. But I will allow comment. Technically, we don't have to, but there's 3 of us that were on this council back in the day when this all started, and we made a promise to you that we are here to listen to you, and this is our way of making certain that we are here to listen to you tonight. So if you can at least give us the pleasure of listening to Rich's speech, and then at which point when he is finished, I will open it up for public comment, and then once that is completed, then the council will go into their discussion about the aquifer test pumps. Thank you.
This presentation is exactly what it's entitled, and it's not more than that. This is focused on the complaints that were related to the aquifer pump test that happened in late November and early December of 2023. This is for council consumption, education. I know it's going to be pretty detailed, but I also know that you guys are probably not private well experts, and the information should be helpful in understanding what we think happened. I've put together kind of a timeline that shows different things. I would call your attention to the 4 arrows on here. In particular, the aquifer pump test began in November, I think it was November 8th, 2023. It ended December 6th, 2023. We started hearing about complaints through the DNR and then from directly in early May. And you might ask, well, why the delay? And but if you think back, that makes some sense. We didn't know there were complaints out there. The folks that this was happening to had no idea that the pump test was coming, what had happened, who did it. So it just took a while for those inquiries to reach the right people and then eventually to us. And then the other one, we conducted an informational meeting for area well owners in early August of 2024. And the important thing about that is that invitation to that public information meeting was sent by mail to 935 well owners and property owners that where the property appeared to have a building on it, indicating there may be a well, and that was within 2.5 miles of the city. So the attempt was to reach everybody we could that might have been affected by this. And that notice did include information that we were aware of some complaints about water quality during the aquifer pump test and what to do if they wanted to file a complaint. So everybody, as best we could, that may have been impacted, at least within 2.5 miles, was sent a mailing. The rest of the dates are just showing different things we were doing to implement the city's interference response plan and water quality response plans, and I don't plan to go into that in any detail. So the question might, and was asked often, why were private well owners not notified of the pump test? And it was simply that staff was unaware that impacts to water quality at private wells was a possibility. It was not part of the DNR's pump test requirements or their comments or any suggestions. it really never came up as a question, and so there was no notification done. It wasn't any attempt to obscure anything. We were following the plan that was approved by the DNR, and that wasn't part of it. But I think this shows that once we were aware of it, we did attempt to reach out as best we could to let people know what to do if they were having, if they had complaints from that time. The things we did, we sent out questionnaires to anybody that notified us that they had experienced an issue during that pump test. If they had well logs, we found those and we reviewed them to see what kind of well they had, what other information we could glean. We conferred with several experts. A key one was R.H. Renner. They have done work on city wells, and Roger, the president of and owner of Renner, is the former president of the Minnesota Well Drillers Association. So he's extremely experienced, and actually was his suggestion as to the main hypotheses we followed as we went through this. We worked a lot with Hartman Well Company, who were great in providing us information on well logs that were not on the public record, answering questions. They pulled a couple of pumps for us so we could see what that looked like when they came up and what might happen. We had LRE do some work, Braun Intertech. We worked with one of their microbiologists. And then we have a water chemistry expert on our staff that also helped us review some of the information. As I mentioned, we pulled 2 wells, and I was there personally and looked at those and talked to the guys actually doing the work to learn what I could from their experience. And then we did, as part of our water quality response plan, we did pull samples from 19 area wells. It wasn't specifically to investigate these events, but we were able to take away a couple of insights from that. And those were done from both well water and aquifer water, and I'll explain that more when I get to it. So we're going to talk a little bit about wells in the Prairie du Chien Jordan Aquifer, which is the aquifer that the city of Elko, New Market shares with most of the people in the area that have private wells. This graphic, some of you have seen before, just shows the extent of the Jordan Aquifer. It's huge. We're at the northern edge of it, but it extends down into Iowa, over into Wisconsin. So it's very large. This gives a graphic for this area. Those curvy lines are actually represent the approximate elevation of the pressure level in the aquifer. And you can't see it here, it's too far away, but the black arrows indicate the direction that the groundwater in the aquifer is moving. And that corresponds to those pressure levels. So as the pressure gets lower, typically as it gets closer to lakes and streams, or rivers especially, it's flowing towards those rivers and discharging into the rivers. Below grade, you may not see it, but there is ongoing movement in the aquifer. This is a cross-section of a typical domestic well. I drew this to scale from an actual well log from one of the wells that were subject to the complaints. So at the top, you see the ground level. That's a very simplistic, typical 2-story house, maybe 25 by 40 feet. You see the domestic well poking down through a thick layer of silt and clay overburden. That is non-water bearing. There's really no available water in the silt and clay. You have to poke through that layer down into the actual Prairie du Chien aquifer, which is the upper layer of the aquifer. Kind of like, and the thing that's maybe a little hard to understand, you'll see a arrow that says aquifer water pressure level. This is a confined aquifer because it's capped with an impermeable layer, and there's higher parts of the aquifer elsewhere that put pressure on this. It's pressurized like if you were, and the only way to get water out is to poke the straw all the way through the confining layer into the bottom layer. And when you do that, water will rise up inside the well to that aquifer water pressure level. So you might think of a juice box. You poke the straw in, you give it a little squeeze, the juice will rise up in the straw. The same thing's happening here. When a well is drilled through the clay into the aquifer, the pressure in the aquifer will push water up automatically. There's nothing to be done to bring water up. And that water pressure level line kind of represents where that is relative to the aquifer, to the houses. And I have a blow up on the next screen that might show a little more detail. So at the bottom of the picture, you see the top of the aquifer. They bore a 6 to 4 inch hole all the way from the surface down into the aquifer. Then they drive a casing in that hole down, typically down to the aquifer. But the bottom of the hole that's in the aquifer may not have a casing. It might just be an open hole that allows water to flow out of the cracks and fissures and sandstone in the aquifer into that and rise up into the well. About in the middle of the picture, you'll see, and it's a little hard to read, I know, submersible pump level in the well. That's all the deeper into the well the pump needs to go. It doesn't need to go to the bottom. It just needs to be below that aquifer water pressure level, which is near the top of the screen. Again, this is the same graphic as before, just zoomed in. And there's detail about casing and drop pipe and such, but that's the basic concept. The pump has to be below the top of the water in the well, and that top of the water in the well is there because of pressure in the aquifer. This is a graphic to help you understand how a well pump works. A well pump is an amazing thing when you really look at it. The numbers on the left of the graph are in feet. That represents basically pressure that the pump is working against. That pressure is not only gravity from the distance it has to pump from its level up to the house, it's also friction loss in the line. The lines on the bottom represent GPM. So if you pick one of the curves, and there's one kind of highlighted with red lines, that is showing that you're going to get about 7 GPM when that well pump is seeing 800 feet of head. If the head goes down, the well can perform better. If the head goes up, the well performs worse. The reason head can change in a well system is because the pipes tend to have buildup that happens in them over time. And as that buildup happens inside the pipe, the diameter gets smaller, it increases the head loss, it makes the pump work harder, and it can't push as much water. So over time, performance will go down in these systems as the water's getting pumped to the pressure tank. This is kind of the same thing as before, except this is showing a high-capacity well configuration, like a city well. Besides the well casing being bigger, instead of a 4-inch, it might be a 14-inch. Instead of a 2-inch drop pipe, it might have an 8-inch drop pipe. The wells tend to also go through the top layer of the aquifer down into the deeper Jordan sandstone level. That is so that more water can be available to the end of that casing to get into the pumping. Otherwise, they're pretty much a similar concept. I made a brief mention of an air tank. A house would have an air tank. When the pump turns on, it fills that pressure tank in the house to a set point and shuts off. And that pressure tank has pressurized air that keeps pressure on the water, so when you get a glass, it's kind of uniform. When the pressure drops enough, it tells the pump, turn on again, fill me back up. The city doesn't have pressure tanks, but it has water towers. They do the same thing. But instead of air, we use gravity. So we put our water way up in the air so it can keep pressure on the system. This shows side by side a residential well and a city well. Again, both are made from actual well logs, but if I drew them to scale, they'd be so far apart you couldn't really tell. So there's a 1.25 mile gap represented there. And so you can basically see how much deeper into the aquifer the city wells are. So this gets us into what is interference. Just broadly, so there's understanding, when a well is pumping, especially a big well like a city, it's pulling water from all directions in the aquifer towards the well. Now, these big fat blue lines make it look like it's really ripping through the aquifer, and in actuality, it moves very slowly. And the further you get from the well, the more slowly it moves. And we can walk through that math if you want to, but it's not like it's water. If you were a mile away and could see that water with dye in it, you wouldn't be able to perceive how fast it's moving. It's very slow. But the area is so vast that it doesn't have to move very fast towards the well to deliver a lot of water. This is what drawdown looks like on a graph. So on the left side, we've got the level below the normal static water level. I mentioned that aquifer is pressurized, so it normally, say it's at 0. If you have a big pump pumping, and we got this from, we had LRE run just a model to give us an idea what these curves look like. So when this model had the pump pumping full blast, the drawdown right at the well was about 37 feet. And then as you move away from the well, as shown on the bottom axis, the distance in miles from the pumping well pair, that drawdown declines. So when you're at, say, a mile, the drawdown's about, 8 feet? When you're at 2 miles, it's a little under 5 feet, and so forth. So it drops off fairly quickly, but it does extend out quite a ways depending on how hard that well is pumping. This graphic is not meant to say what the drawdown was at any point during our pump test. That's variable, but it was intended to just give an idea of the shape and the order of magnitude of the drawdowns that can happen from a typical city well. So if I take that drawdown curve and just pretend that it does apply, and I put it on the city well on the right and on a private well on the left, it's the same graphic before, except I somehow mucked up putting the right gap in there, but the concept is the same. You see a blue dashed line on each of them. On the city side, on the right, you see the drawdown at the well, 37.7 feet. And this is to scale, so it's not nearly as steep as that graphic on the previous page showed. But when you get, a couple hundred feet away, it's already down to 30 feet. When you get to 2 miles or 2.5 miles away, where that private well is represented, that drawdown is down to 2.7 feet. However, it's still drawdown, and that is the crux of what's going on here with these water quality complaints. So I'm just going to move on and see if we can help you understand that better. We received, after sending out before and after, the mailing that we sent did prompt some more complaints. We got 68 complaints. We sent questionnaires to each of those folks. We got 45 questionnaires back. We compiled the results of those questionnaires. And we also looked for well logs. We found them for 32 of the respondents out of the 41 or so, 45. We couldn't find well information for 13 of the wells. Little graphic shows the drillers that we found on the records. I thought that was interesting, and I would guess our audience probably are familiar with some of these names. Hartman did almost half of the wells that we had logs for. Bone was common, Gary's, Stadola, Catterlick. Jekyll's was also fairly common. So, and I learned of a new one today. So there are a number of well drillers in the area. And any one of them, at least from my experience in dealing with them during this examination, are pretty knowledgeable and cooperative. So this just shows what we found for ages of wells as of 2024, and this is in years. So Dark blue, that's unknown. There was no age information. There was quite a contingent that was in the 11 to 20-year range, the purple 20 to 30-year range. I was actually expecting they would be more older wells, but when you think about how this developed, then maybe this makes sense. There's, probably half of them are under 40 years old. Turns out an important question is, when was the last service? So this shows the years since the last well service. And by well service, that meant the pump was pulled out. Any drop pipe that was corroded or had gotten smaller on the inside was replaced. They can replace those section by section. And the well drillers do recommend that pumps be pulled every 10 to 15 years because there is corrosion that happens and it can break or lead to pinholes that causes other problems in the well. So, we had a range of responses, but most of them were pretty recently. Few unknowns, but most in the 5 or 10 years or less range for getting their wells serviced, which is what we'd expect based on feedback from the well contractors. This shows an idea of the type of in-home treatment systems. A lot of inline filters, a lot of water softeners, which we'd expect. We know we've got high hardness. We know we've got high iron. We know we've got high manganese in this area. And this is just the 41 or 45 responses. There are lots of other wells out there we don't know, but we suspect it's probably similar. Some RO systems, some only faucet filters, but majority basically an inline filter, the water softener, and maybe some additional equipment either at the tap or elsewhere on the line. Most homes have more than one type of treatment. This is an idea of the type of responses we got, and keep in mind that there can be more than one response at a home, and some of these are related. So if we have no water or lower pressure, which a lot of people reported, that can be related to the plugged filters or interference. With material getting on those filters, it's going to prevent water from getting through the system, and you're going to see it at the tap. About a quarter of people reporting color or appearance problems, quarter of people reporting changing in staining, some change in soap use, which is typically an indication of high hardness. And then that red one, another quarter of people reporting something brown, black, orange, sludge-like material. We believe that is oxidized iron and manganese, and the manganese is probably getting oxidized by iron oxidizing bacteria, which is not harmful. It's not nice looking, but it's not a health risk. And just, if council has ever looked down in your sump pump and you see a kind of an orange filmy stuff on the pump and on the piping, that's what that is. When it's exposed to a lot of manganese, that filmy stuff will be more black because that's the material available for it, for food basically. It converts it from a dissolved form to a insoluble form, and that's what we think is clinging to the inside of the well casings. This shows a drop pipe that was taken from one of the wells that we pulled, and that black and white material is inside the drop pipe. The white is hardness, and the black is that same material we were just talking about, oxidized manganese. The clogged filter on the right was also gathered from this investigation from one of the wells that were complaining. That orange material is rust. It could be rust from IOB. That well did have IOB. We sampled for it in 2 wells. But you get an idea what that, at least in this case, what that stuff looked like. Other cases, it may have been more black. Sampling was not super helpful for this effort because we were looking for what's going on with the material and the sludge-like stuff. Almost everybody reported that coming into the houses. But we looked at the samples anyway, and when we did the samples, we took the additional step of going, what the DNR wanted us to sample for was water from the aquifer.
Rich, can you speak closer to the mic? You're
Oh.
moving slowly away and it's getting quieter in the back room.
Sorry about that. So our requirement for sampling was to purge the well, which means run water out of it until all the water that was sitting in the well is out and you've drawn in new water from the aquifer. They wanted to know what's in the aquifer water, not what's in the well water. We chose to sample both, so we did a short purge just to get water, out of the pressure tank, but get water that was in the well. We sampled that for iron and manganese, and we also sampled, per our requirement, the aquifer water by doing that longer purge and getting all that well water out of the well before we took the sample. We did find manganese exceeded concentrations, health concentrations, in 9 out of the 15 locations we had data for at this point. 100 is the health standard. We found it as high as 415. That was not a surprise. We know we've got high manganese, and I think most homeowners do as well. That was the pre-purge. The post-purge value was 36 to 430 micrograms, so kind of the same range. We did look at the changes in the concentrations of manganese and iron before we purged and after we purged, and what we found is it was mixed, but it was definitely different. Either different, higher after it was purged or higher before it was purged. So we think the cause of that is likely to be water use before we got there. We don't know what that was, and we can't control it. So there may have been fresher water for one batch or not. But the important thing is that it does appear to change concentration of dissolved manganese and iron in the well versus when it's coming first out of the aquifer. And I suspect the longer it sits in the well with lower usage, the more that change might be. And we suspect that coming out of solution is largely going to contribute to the stuff that's building up inside the well. This is more about, why it was inconclusive, so I don't want to hang my head on that too much other than that there are clearly changes or differences between aquifer water and well water. And let's move through this. Again, it supports the potential for iron and manganese to change form and build up inside the well casing. I talked to our water scientist about that. He suspects because of the pH isn't right for it to happen just with oxygen, that there are microbial processes going on, especially for the manganese, and that microbial process is probably iron oxidizing bacteria, which is not known to be harmful. We did sample for that at 2 locations and found it in both places. We did not measure hardness pre and post purge, but pretty clearly from the pumps we pulled, there's hardness in the water, and we know that. Another thing we found that really reinforces that there is stuff inside the well casings is that when we were having Hartman lower one of the well pumps for the pumps we pulled, we hadn't told them that we were going to lower it before they showed up. And when we told them, as long as you got it open, let's just put another stick of pipe and get that pump deeper in the well, they couldn't do it. They had to stop and get another piece of equipment onto the site because they want to take an air compressor and a tool and clean off the inside of that well casing before they put the pump lower. Otherwise, they risk knocking stuff loose from the sides of the well casing that can get sucked up and damage the pump. So there's clearly stuff built up inside of these casings, and we think that stuff is what came loose during our aquifer test. Recall, we dropped the water level in varying degrees depending on the distance from our well, and allows that stuff that's normally wet to dry out or die and fall into the water column where it can get sucked up by the pump, come into the house, cause a big nuisance. Once that's cleared out and flushed, and it's gone, then the problem is kind of back to normal. But it was pretty clearly what happened here, that it was caused by our pump test, and that's where the material came from. So I just gave you the conclusion. I won't read it to you again. Other than I would add, this stuff is happening in these wells kind of all the time, but on a lower, much lower pace. So as it builds up, a little bit might come loose, end up, get caught in the filter, go through. It's manageable. The homeowners are used to it and dealing with it. They kind of have a rhythm with how often they have to change their filters depending how much. What happened in this case is above and beyond normal because there was more exposure of that stuff to air, basically. We dropped that water level from a foot to 3 or 4 feet in some cases for 4 weeks and allowed that stuff to basically come loose. There were other theories that we considered. I don't know how much time to spend on these other than we rejected them. Primarily, well, I'll just stirred up the aquifer. I inferred that meant that the water moving through the aquifer towards the city wells was causing some kind of disturbance that raised up material and causing the wells. But I already told you the velocities were so low that that's just not possible. In fact, the velocity at the bottom of a well from even a domestic well pump is thousands of times faster than what our rates would have been from our pumping. So it's not likely that anything we did stirred up the aquifer. It drew down the water and allowed material already in the well to come loose. Drew lower quality water towards the wells. The idea there is maybe there's plumes of bad water out there, and when the city pumped harder, it pulled that stuff towards the wells and got in. Again, that aquifer water is constantly on the move, typically towards the rivers to the north. So this would happen naturally if that was the case. Plus, it's unlikely that at the velocities we were pulling water. I mean, over the length of a test for wells within a mile or two, the water might have moved 10 feet. It's not like it pulled it from 200 feet away or something like that. So that just seems implausible that there would happen to be 41 batches of low quality water out there right by a well ready to be drawn to it. It didn't fit. And then there were some comments, this is normal in domestic wells. And that is true, but I already explained, not to this degree. We chose to assume the complaints are credible, gather what evidence and information was reasonably available, and form an opinion accordingly. I'm going to move past the examination of these since I already gave you the highlights. And that leads us to questions. I may have missed something important Tom wanted me to mention. Again, this was all in support of the recommendations for compensation. We think that the complaints were credible. They're linked to the evidence that we have, and we think the cause was the drawdown in the city and that it was a short-term impact, not that it's not continuing on the normal rate. And that's why we recommended what we do in the compensation memo. So I guess I'd stand for questions at that point or additional remarks from Tom.
Does the council want any Q&A to this piece of it, or do you want us to just move on to the recommendation for compensation and then just handle it all at one time?
I believe Josh has some questions.
Well, I mean, I guess I don't know. I mean, if it's specific to the test and what you just talked about, maybe it makes sense to ask now and before there might be separate questions related to the compensation stuff.
Yep.
If that works. I know I will. So just this is a very just process question. So when we did the questionnaires, did we Was it all self-reported? Was documentation submitted, like dates of last service, I mean, what, was it self-reported only, or was there documentation that we also accepted to verified?
It was largely self-reported. Some people added some information from their driller or an invoice or something, just backing up that they had it serviced on this date. I didn't mention, we got very little information on the specific timing of the first notice of these incidents. It was all over the map. At first, I'm like, that's aggravating. But then as I thought about it, you own a well, you don't know anything's gonna happening, you start noticing something weird, you're probably not gonna write down, this happened at 11:02 a.m. on this. And so after I thought it through, it made sense, and we just had to rely on the reporting that it was in this general time frame when these things were observed. So no, not a lot of documentation.
Okay. And I think I heard it said two different ways or things, you know, that seemed contradictory in my brain. And so at one point, I think we said we saw levels of manganese exceed health limits or standards. But then earlier on, I think in the slide deck, it said that there weren't any concerns or health risks or something like that related to increased levels of manganese. Square that up for me.
There are, well, when I say increased, it means increased from the pre-purge to the post-purge. It doesn't mean anything relative to when our pump test occurred. We don't have data from before the pump test on manganese, other than what's just from our own plant. So at these sites, we didn't have. It was simply comparing water that was sitting in the well, that manganese, dissolved manganese specifically. We didn't, and there's not really a test for oxidized manganese. So we were testing for dissolved manganese before we purged the well and testing for dissolved manganese after. And that's where we were noticing it always was different, not always in the same direction, but we think that's related to how much usage might have been going on at that well before we ever got there.
Okay, but to be clear, increased levels, elevated levels of manganese for extended periods of time does have health impacts on
Yes.
people or animals or things like that. So we're not saying that it doesn't. We're just saying that, what are we saying?
We think that's evidence that the water changes in the well as it sits there waiting to be used. And that stuff is what's contributing to the buildup on the walls of the well casing.
Okay. And then I also heard, you know, the pump test did not drop, at least according to the modeling and what we expected to happen. We didn't have any, I believe, or very few, any actual interference claims that outside maybe that it could have been tied to sludge buildup, filter buildup, maybe in that increased the likelihood of like lower pumping or lower flow. But so if we are under the assumption that it didn't drop more than 2.5 or 3 or 4 feet in some private well locations, is that enough to then cause enough of that stuff inside of the pipe to dry up, to then come loose again? Is that enough to cause some of the impacts that folks would have seen? I mean, because that just doesn't seem like a lot to me. And these pipes aren't like, you know, this big around or whatever, so they're this big-ish. And then that much dries up, or whatever, that much dries up. Is that enough to cause filters to
It's a fair amount of surface area relative to the surface area of a filter. And it's coming through, it's getting ground up by that pump and coming through all at once. So it could pretty easily, I think, clog up a filter or 2 or 3, depending on how much drawdown was happening at that well, the degree of the buildup inside the well. I mean, there's a lot of variables, but no, it doesn't seem implausible to me at all.
That's all I got for now.
Any other questions for him? Otherwise, we'll let him go on.
I just wanted to, on your question about interference, up until today, I believed we didn't have any interference. I do have some clarifying information. It's not for this presentation or meeting. We will be dealing with that, but there was one that I think is confirmed.
One last quick question. I don't know, Tom or Rich, who's better for it, but this is a compensation recommendation. Is it a requirement from the state or the DNR?
No. They support it, but it was not a requirement. I did fail to mention at the beginning why you asked us to do this. I'll do it from memory if you allow me not to have to page back through, but basically we were looking, are there health concerns? Because remember, at that time, we had no idea what happened. We just heard people were unhappy, various comments about what was going on. So, was it a health concern? Would it happen again? Can it be prevented? Would it inform how we design our wells going forward if we knew the answer to this? Were the claims valid? Were they, people just thinking things, or was it real? And, obviously we think it was. So those were some of the reasons why you asked us. It just seemed like the right thing to do, to find the answer so that we could hopefully help us manage better in the future. This may actually benefit well owners around other communities going forward, because now the DNR is well aware that this can happen, and will probably be, I would guess, we'll see some kind of notification requirements for other places as they do the same thing.
And one last thing too, so just, this is getting detailed, but we did talk about the well test in public meetings. There were some folks that are in this room today that were part of those meetings in the audience. So we did talk about this. It's in the minutes. It's on all the videos posted. We were getting updates at the October 26th, the November 16th, and the December 7th meetings of 2023. I'm sure we talked about it before, but I didn't go back any further. But we didn't do enough to notify the private well owners, and we acknowledge 100% that. And so I even say that, and I see your head shaking. I'm not trying to say that in a way that folks should have known, because nobody ever shows up to these meetings, so I get that. And we'd love more engagement. But to say that nobody would have known about it, this was done in secret, that's just, that's not true. But we should have done more to notify folks, to communicate what to do when issues were heard or seen and felt, and that is a piece that we failed to do.
Just, I kind of want to reiterate on that, what Rich had said at the beginning of his presentation. If we had known that there was a chance that this would happen, we would have notified, but the DNR did not expect that this is something that would happen. We did not expect it would be something that would happen. They do aquifer tests around the state based on the DNR's experience. It wasn't something they brought to our attention. They were surprised by it in our discussions with them. So this is simply an issue of, we didn't have an opportunity to advise well owners that, hey, we're going to be doing aquifer tests that might have an impact on your wells. It wasn't a secret that we're doing an aquifer test, but we didn't have an opportunity, nor were we aware there was a need to advise well owners within a certain distance that, hey, you might have stuff coming up in your well, and here's some things that you should do to possibly address it ahead of time, or be aware of it to make us aware of it.
All right, I do have, you have another presentation? No, you're done.
No, you have the memo in your packets.
Okay.
The purpose of this was to help you understand how we got to, yes, we think it would be appropriate to offer compensation to certain people that complained about their
Okay. So at this moment right now, the council is going to hold off on our discussion, and I am going to open it up for public comment. It will be 2 minutes, and it will be comment on the aquifer testing itself. Please refrain from anything else that is not in regards to what we have just talked about in this presentation. I don't want to hear anything about Niagara. So, who out there would like to come first? Janelle, you had your hand raised if you want to come up. And please remember to state your name and address.
Absolutely. Janelle Kuzna, 26775 Grand Avenue. First, Josh, I just want to address your comment on the pump test. So just so for the record, as that pump test was being developed, It went back and forth to the DNR several times. And so I myself made several calls to Rich outside of these meetings in order to know when that pump test was starting. So did the community know that there was going to be a pump test? Yes. Was the date that that pump test was going to start known to the general public? The answer to that question is,
Well, we knew, but I think the
did
point,
the general public know?
not from us.
Correct. That's what I wanted to get across. So your point is accurate, that people knew there was going to be a pump test, but nobody knew when it was going to be. So I just want to respond to that specifically. So just a couple other things I want to say. First, I want to say that I've held 2 volunteer well clinics here with Minwoo, and tested people's wells for both arsenic and manganese. Both times we had over 200 people at those clinics. I do have the results from those. And so I think as you move forward with the city, this is something the city could really offer the stakeholders in this, and which will bring me to my second point. Whether you guys like it or not, we are stakeholders in this. We are well owners in Newmarket Township, and we have a stake in this. We've been here for 3 years trying to get you to understand that we have a stake in this. We have brought experts in to testify that there could be a drawdown and a problem with our wells. We have testified. We have spent thousands of hours trying to get that through your heads. I think even when it comes to this meeting, I spoke with Rich via email on Monday. However, and Tom, you were involved in that email as well, no one told me that this was going to be on the agenda tonight. I had to seek that out myself. So if you want to have a conversation with stakeholders, it would be really important to bring us to the table and keep us in the loop. So instead of just saying, hey, read the minutes, and actually, to be honest with you, the conversation I had on the email with you, Rich, was specifically in regards to this memo. I was asking for this memo, but no one informed me that it was going to be discussed at this meeting. So I just want to point that out. So a couple of other things. I would like to know what the pump rate was during that pump test, hourly and daily, and how that's going to compare in phase 1, phase 2, and future development of the city. Because how much water was being pumped at that time, and how is it going to compare into the future? So you don't have to answer that right now. If you can, go ahead.
We pumped for 2 weeks at 835 gallons per minute.
Okay.
Then we pumped for 2 weeks at 1,230 gallons per minute. So that was continuous pumping, but the rate did increase in the latter part of the test. 1,235 gallons a minute is roughly 1.8 million gallons a day. This summer, there were only 2 days we exceeded 1 million gallons a day. To give you at least what I have off the top of my head, kind of where we're
And then do we know what the second phase will be that is in there? I think that was the second part of the question. Yeah.
And future development.
Well, what's the future? I mean, this city will continue to grow for decades, and so we have projections out to 2045. Sure. I don't remember those numbers off the top of my head, but it's well above what we're pumping right now. So yes, it will continue to grow. We'll be dealing with these issues for a long time to come, which goes to one of the reasons we did this. If we know what happened, we can try to minimize it, avoid it, notify, manage it better.
Unless it's the daily pumping that is causing it.
Well,
when you get to that point.
Yeah, the difference between our daily operation and these pump events like that pump test, that pump was on all the time, round the clock, for 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Our daily operations, we pump for 3 hours, the pump shuts off, water levels come back, another couple hours it might come on again, or it might be a different pump. So there's movement and recovery. We're not drawing things down and letting them dry out.
Mm-hmm.
That will
Rich,
get
you gotta
there.
talk into
Oh,
your
I'm sorry.
microphone.
That will get there over time, but it's gradual. For the pump test, the pump went on, it stayed on, and it stayed on hard. That's not anything like how we normally operate, so.
Not right now, but we don't know for sure, like, as far as high demand next summer, if there's a phase 1 and phase 2, what the effect could be on private wells?
Even then, it tends to build up. It's not like we turn it on and leave it on for weeks at a time.
Okay.
It might run more one day, but it'll still turn off. There's some recovery, might be
You know,
other wells coming on.
Can you clarify what you mean when you're talking phase 1 and phase 2?
I'm talking about what Kate said I can't talk about, Niagara.
Well, and then,
What I was referring to was the second test that we're going to be doing as part of.
I'm going to get to that. I got that next on my list of questions, so.
is there a way that you can summarize real quickly, because the
Okay,
2
yeah,
minutes?
I'll, quick, can you please explain the second round of testing, and why we're gonna push that second round of testing through? What the reason would be
Yes.
for it?
First of all, it is not aquifer testing. We have.
No, I didn't say it, but it was aquifer, but it's testing.
Not testing, it's
Oh,
sampling.
it's not, sampling, thank you.
Our water quality response plan requires us to take a second round of sampling after we've pumped 1 million gallons a day or more for 14 days. We did not hit that this summer. We also have an issue with waiting around for that to happen, because as soon as it happens, we got to get out and take those samples. If we haven't lined that up ahead of time with the homeowners where we're sampling, with the sampling crew that's got to go out and do it, with the lab that's got to run the results, with notifying the people that were coming, it's impossible. So we decided we're going to schedule this level of pumping. I actually just wrote a notice today that will be going out to the 900 and some folks that we notified before, telling them about this and other information, but that's not quite ready to hit the presses yet. But we will be doing an advance notification. Even though this is less than what the pump test was, there could still be some impacts. It has some tips on how to manage it, what to look for. So that's the reason we're going to do that pumping event, so that it triggers our sampling requirements. We can get that second round of sampling this year.
And I think you and I had a conversation. You also have Niagara asking for another permit, and they're wanting that permit, and you can't go for that permit until this sampling is done. Is that not correct?
We have to do 3 rounds of sampling.
Yep, 3 rounds of sampling before you can ask the DNR for another permit. And is it true or not true that Niagara is asking for for more water for their second phase?
Okay, we're not gonna
Anybody
talk
got it? 2 minutes?
Niagara
Okay.
right now. I'm
Well,
sorry.
I would like that question answered.
Yep.
At some point.
We will answer that
Because
at some
I
point,
think that's
but-
that's a fair question for the people that have wells here.
Yep.
Again, we're stakeholders.
Yep.
We are stakeholders.
I'll ask that question in my 2 minutes.
Okay, I got a little bit more. And the DNR, and I noticed in the packet, the DNR and MDH responses, I'd like to see actually what those responses were. You summarized them in the packet. If you could post exactly what they said. I couldn't glean exactly what the DNR and the MDH were saying, but I have talked to some other experts about what they think might be going on here, so I'd like to compare what was said by those 2 comments. And then I'll just finally say one other thing. We are stakeholders. We are well owners that have lived here as long as you, Amanda, and Josh, and the rest of you. Kate, we are stakeholders in this. You have got to stop not inviting us to the table. Can I get that commitment from this council?
Again, this is not a not.
A yes or no question?
It's a yes or no.
I think
Yes.
we're doing
always
it right now.
invited, and so yes, do we need to do better with the notification? 100%. But there is none of this is happening in secret. None of the development in this community is happening in secret. No.
I'm not saying that it is, Josh. I'm not saying that it's happening in secret. I'm saying that if this was going to be talked about at this meeting,
I don't disagree with you at all.
then, okay, that's what I'm asking for to let us to the table. You're going to have a lot less problems if we work this out together than if you keep it in secret.
Correct.
That's the bottom line.
Yep.
And you may want to consider well testing annually for the people that live around here. That's the recommendation that people should get. I will tell you that there was a lot of arsenic and a lot of manganese in the 200-plus wells that I tested in the area. And Rich, if you could make your presentation from tonight. Thank you, council. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Janelle.
I'm gonna stretch my 2 minutes.
So, excuse me,
Who
Chair.
sitting at this table has a private well? Do you live in Elko?
I live in Cedar Lake Township.
Okay, so all you people are making decisions that will not affect you in the least. Thanks a lot.
So, Rich, question. Following the meeting tonight, what was the plan and schedule for public engagement following the meeting tonight?
The hope was to we have the mailing list prepared to put it in the mail tomorrow. However, we are promising some content, this presentation or excerpts of it broken up to make it more digestible, the actual memo that was in the council packet, materials talking about the upcoming pumping event, what to do, but that was all going to be, and we're hoping to mail that tomorrow. I don't want to have that out if we can't get good quality content on the website immediately, and we can't. I need a few days to get that pulled together. So probably sometime next week, we'll be sending out that mailing, posting that information, actually scheduling a public information meeting for people that don't want to consume it online or still have questions afterwards. So there's another big information push coming up, if that
So
answers.
prior to the meeting tonight, we had planned to, one, send out information to all the property owners after we'd presented to the council and gotten feedback and direction from them. We were gonna hold a public informational meeting, and we were gonna post online information that was gonna be presented at that meeting for easy access to individuals who might not be able to make that meeting.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, can I?
Go for it.
I mean, and this is where, I mean, somebody in the audience already, took the words out of my mouth too. I mean, I think at that point, it is too late to a certain extent, because we would have talked about it here. We would have talked about the compensation piece. And it's that piece that I think there's frustration and feeling not invited, engaged, notified of the topic. And it does feel like it's after the fact, and 100% agree with that, so.
Yes, sir.
My name is Roger Bass, 25421 Natchez Avenue. I literally live right next to the treatment plant. The question I would have is, I live a half mile from the pump. You talked about a drawdown of 37 feet.
Yep,
What do you think mine's going to be?
pretty severe.
Pretty severe. And the question I would have for you is over the long haul, and I'm not talking this year or next.
Yep.
In 5 years, what's gonna happen? Am I gonna have to replace my well again? Because I can tell you, to replace a well is $20,000. I just did it.
Yeah.
And so you people that don't have a private well, that's the cost involved. $20,000. I don't know what your compensation package is. Don't care.
No, it's
But
not,
it's
though.
it's pretty sad if you're not addressing a well, okay? And I know, I can tell you for a fact that I'm going through filters twice as fast as I ever have. And the cost of a filter is $65. That's for a Connecticut water softener system. Cost of a filter is $65. I don't know what your compensation is gonna be offering, but if it's not something, I'm not worried about yesterday, and I'm not worried about next month. I'm worried about 5 years from now. And if my drawdown is gonna be as bad as you're saying, then I'm gonna have a lot of issues, okay?
Yep. I don't know if you want me to address that.
I think it might be helpful to have Corey Schweik, our Public Works Director, come up and talk about what level of usage we've had since the aquifer test compared to the previous several years, and whether or not there's really been much of a difference.
What I was thinking about is the future drawdown and how that gets managed.
But can I even reframe a bit, and tell me if I'm out of line here, but, I mean, the compensation that we are talking about right now is for and only for what might have happened during the pump test in 2023.
Okay.
That has nothing to do with any future well interference, any issues. That will still be addressed, and we are on the hook for any well interference, any
So in
potential
the
issues.
future,
So like,
let me
any-
ask
yeah,
you this,
yeah.
in the future, if I have an issue, who do I go to?
They contact us.
Right.
That's
I
why
talk
we
to.
set up, that's why we
And-
set up the
and
My
that would
Private Well
happen
website.
Inside or because of or not because of an industrial plant or anything else. For future development, you have well interference, you have issues. The city is responsible for that regardless.
Okay.
And so that's where it's a reach out to these guys or
All right.
staff, and then we are accountable to looking into it.
Just so I know who I can talk to in the future.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, Corey, can you speak to a little bit about, once we completed the aquifer test, which was an extreme situation within a defined period of time, what our pumping since then has been over the course of the year, even with the N-word company being online, adding to our regular base usage? What does our usage look this year compared to previous years overall?
Right now, we're up about, we're pumping about 20 million gallons a month. During the pump test, or the aquifer test, we pumped 49 million gallons in that month. So we're well under half that. This month to date, we're at about 18 million gallons, which obviously which obviously fluctuates with people watering their lawn, everything like that. Our pumps now are set at, we're pumping 1,000 gallons a minute, and our wells are running for a few hours here, off for a couple hours, a few hours here, off for a couple hours, a few hours here. There was a couple times this summer that they ran for 22, 23 hours, and then we're off for a few hours. But that's when we're using more water. The usage right now can fluctuate from 600,000 gallons a day to 1 million, but we've only been over 1 million, probably a handful of days this summer. So it's kind of leveled out a little bit now that people aren't sprinkling as much. But our pumping rates are way lower than what they were. Actually, our rates aren't that much lower. The duration of the pumping is what the difference is. So if you pump nonstop for basically 28 days, and then once we shut the pumps off, the level came back in the aquifer within 3 days. It was back up to where it was initially. So it dropped down for that long period of time, and then everything came back. And Roger, I know you're right next to where we are. We have not run well 4, which is right by you, for most of the summer. We've been using well 2 and 3, which are over by the racetrack and City Hall. So the drawdown, I would think if you were going to see any issues during the pump test when we were running well 4 for 2 weeks straight, you would have seen it then. And now we're pulling water from 1.5 miles away, and we're not right there.
Unfortunately, I had to replace my well last summer. But I got a hole in the casing, okay?
Yeah.
So I don't know if,
So that's what, when talking to the well drillers, they said a lot of the times when people are seeing manganese or high iron, they have holes in the casing or their drop pipe. And a couple of them that we did pull, the drop pipe was less than 15 years old and they had holes in it. The holes in it is where you're getting a lot of the rust from. And I mean, I'm not a well driller. I don't pull them every day, but the ones we did see, I mean, they were corroded and you could tell where the water was sitting.
All right, anyone next to come up to the podium, please do.
Jonathan Carlson, 26126 Pillsbury Avenue. We live about 2 miles from the nearest city well, but we're adjacent to the new industrial park. So I just want to say that I want to echo what Janelle said. Like, we're stakeholders, and many of you are familiar faces, and we've been talking about this from the beginning. And I just want to compare and contrast. One stakeholder, the red carpet's been rolled out for, millions of dollars of subsidies were rolled out. Every exception to code or construction access was granted. Another set of stakeholders, township residents, well owners, like from a water quality perspective, total of $7,000. And have had to continually kind of fight to get a seat at the table, to be in front of communications and to even have conversations. That doesn't, I don't like the word equity, but that just doesn't feel like equal treatment of stakeholders. And then specifically to our well issue, Like, we saw one-time impacts, but we continue to see elevated levels of manganese in our water. So I don't agree with the conclusions, and the $150 compensation for one time doesn't come close to addressing the impact we saw from a one-time perspective. And with eyes wide open, this council accepted sole responsibility for addressing well interference and water quality. And I would encourage all the well owners that have had impact to seek full and fair compensation for the impacts they've had, because this council knew the risks. Thanks.
Thank you.
Jamie Carlson, I live with him. I'm his better half. 26126 Pillsbury Avenue. We've spent thousands of dollars. We still have manganese. Rich, manganese is poisonous. It will kill us. So we have Connecticut in, which you know. We have 6 tanks in our basement. We have 4 filters up on our wall just to have drinking water in our home so that we're not poisoned. So your analogy that manganese, I say it like Joss, I know, is not poisonous. It's very poisonous. It's still
don't think I
coming
said
in.
that, ma'am.
You did. It was in on one of your slides. Another thing is Carrie Jennings, a hydrologist, came not before Megan or you, but for the rest of you. And she gave like a 2-hour presentation warning you, and you did not heed her warning. Now, maybe the rest of us, like me, I'm not a hydrologist. This is the first time we've owned a well. Our well is clean. We do not have holes in it. Our motor's running perfectly, and we are still drawing manganese because we live right across the street from the NIAGARA. By the way, we've lawyered up with Zell Law. So if anybody needs a good lawyer, Zell Law is taking people. Your $150 won't touch the time and effort and money that we have put in to the filters that we have, the time that John has had to take off of work for these silly-ass meetings at Christmas and New Year's Eve and Thanksgiving. We all showed up, even through blizzards. You all remember this. And yet you voted yes. So you suffer your consequences. That's what I tell my boys that are all law enforcement. You will suffer your own consequences because what goes around comes around. And we are suffering because of it.
Thank you.
Oh, don't forget your purse, Jamie.
Oh, sorry.
Unless you want
There's
me to go
nothing in it.
shopping.
Yeah.
I can't go
You can
shopping.
go.
Jody Lucas, again, 26. What is our address? 26501 Xerxes Trail. Question for Rich. Was anyone in the proximity of my house and the original OGs of Elko that are still on private wells?
For sampling, you mean?
For anything? Did anyone get on Woodcrest, my home, top of the hill,
One of our IOB samples was in Woodcrest.
up on the hill?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So when I filed my complaint with the well website and you told me to flush out,
Did it help?
nope. I'm getting stuff in my sink. I'm getting stuff in my toilet. I have low pressure now, and I'm one of the wells that had all the pipes pulled and replaced. I spend more than $100 a month on iron out, white out. $150 doesn't even really get me a filter. The gunk that's constantly going, the smell is atrocious. And we are now forced to buy refillable bottled water because I don't trust our water. And obviously, I'm going to be a first-time grandma. I'm not going to let her drink it. So now instead of drinking our water through our filtration system, which sucks now, we're doing this. I mean, I'm so insulted by the payout. I'm like, just shooken. It's like, here you go. You cash this check, we're done with you. You're not done with us. We're not done. And I just want answers of why everything is just kind of brushed off. Oh, flush out your system. It's going to be fine. Everything's not fine. I have 14 raised bed gardens. I'm running that hose like crazy. And I ran it when I talked to Corey. I ran it when I emailed with you. I've done everything you've asked, and nothing has changed. And my brother-in-law's here. We paid a hefty bill to pull out those pipes and put new pipes in. I don't want to do that. And I'm not going to pay 20 grand. And I cannot, even if you made me connect to city sewer and water, which I won't, what are you going to do with the 2 other houses that don't have access to water? You're going to run water up Woodcrest? That'll be bad. That'd be a cold day. Like Grandpa said, he'd burn his house down before he hooks up. I'm having those same feelings. And I feel like I don't ever get any kind of answers. I get a lot of head nods. Yep, we'll look into it. Nothing else.
What I actually have is more questions, but I don't know that this is the venue for that. But I'd be happy to talk to you outside of the meeting sometime.
Sure. But I also reiterate, Jamie, we told you. We had Dr. Jennings here. We were right. We told you what was going to happen. She knew, and yet here we are. Just deja vu for me, missing out on everything. Family gatherings to come here and argue about our water that we own, that you gave away. And now we're left trying to fix our damage. And that's all I got.
My name's Noah Henry, 26501 Xerxes Trail, Elko, New Market. So it started probably 6 months ago. Started 6 months ago. I get a message from my wife. She says, "Why is the water so brown?" I said, "We'll change the filter. We'll see where it goes from there." Change the filter. Nothing happened. It actually got worse. And then come to find out that you sit here and you say, "Yeah, we did a drawdown. We drew it down 4 feet. And a bunch of that stuff probably dried out, ended up in the bottom of your well. So bad, so sorry. Here's a check. But if you take the check, you can't do anything about it." My niece, they're having to buy water in jugs just to bathe her because the water is so nasty and so brown.
Fill our tub, it's
Yeah.
tan, there's a black scum on the bottom of the bathtub.
What am I supposed to do when my son is born? Am I supposed to go buy water and then come to City Hall and say, "Here's my bill for the month because I had to go buy jugged water to bathe my son. Here's the bill for the month because I had to buy water bottles so I could drink out of them"? What are we supposed to do? You take a bath, you can't even see your damn legs in it because it's so frickin' brown. You knowingly drew down the well. You knowingly knew that stuff was probably going to dry out. You knew it was going to fall. And then you say, "Sorry guys, you've lived here forever. Some of the families have been here since the 1800s. Multi-generational families. Sorry. Really sucks your private well. But hey, you can hook up to city water and city sewer for a price that no one can afford in this economy." No one. Who here that's a private well owner can hook up to city sewer, city water, not have to take a loan out for it? Grandpa? Jason?
And then pay the monthly bill.
Yeah, and then pay the monthly bill on top of it. One of her cousins, he just sold his house because his water bill made it so bad that he could not afford his mortgage. $400 a month for 2 people in a single family home.
That work 12-hour days that are never.
Yeah. I have to, my dog dishes, I physically have to wipe the black scum out of them before I will even give my dogs water. And guess what? Not coming out of the faucet. I'm filling it up with water bottles because I'm scared as hell to let them drink it. I'm scared as hell to let my wife drink it. I'm scared to drink it. What are we supposed to do about all the family farms around here? The Zwebers, the Wagners, the Kleins, the Frieges, they all have cows. They all have animals. What they drink goes into their bodies. So what are we supposed to do about that? Their livelihoods, the livelihood of this whole entire town that it used to be? What are we supposed to do? That's my question. There's my 2 minutes.
Can I touch on one thing?
Yep.
Okay, who was around here before our water treatment plant was online? Who was on city water before our water treatment plant was online?
City water?
City water. Yeah, who was on our city water?
None of us are city.
Okay, so okay, so the water that we used to pump, the same water that we pump right now, that's what our water looked like before a treatment plant. Our iron and manganese levels have not changed since 2016, since the plant went online. We used to have to flush our hydrants once a month, up until 2016 when the plant went online. This iron and manganese that's in the water, it's been in the water forever. So the levels that we're seeing, when we test almost daily for water coming in. We test daily for water going out. The levels of iron and manganese in the water have not changed since 2016 till now. I don't know what they were before that.
Now it's 4 times the
Nope.
safe drinking limit. The slide just said
Yeah,
it's
and
413
and that's what it
microns per liter.
and that's what it is coming into the plant. The water that you're pulling is the same water we're pulling into our plant. We're treating it. We're backwashing filters. We're backwashing a filter a day because of the iron and manganese.
So we're supposed to install.
No, I'm just trying to give you a relative of the water that's in the aquifer that we're pulling into the plant.
But we're not city water or city sewer.
No, I know, but it's coming from the same aquifer. All I'm trying to explain is what.
Affecting the well.
You're treating it. We're
It's affecting the
Yeah,
well.
you're treating it. You have the money to treat it. We do not have the money to treat it and put a thing in. It's just.
The issue here isn't that you guys are treating the same water, it's the fact that we are not. We are on the same water source we have always been on. And all of a sudden, there's an issue, but there's a common denominator in the issue that everyone in this room is dealing with, except for the people on the council and the one who is potentially, I don't know, I don't want to speak for you, but nobody on the council has a well, and they voted in something that directly affects people with a well. As my grandfather stated, you are making decisions for people, and these decisions only affect these people. But you don't want to listen to the direct effect of these people. That is what we are trying to come across. This doesn't affect you. You don't have daily occurrences with it. We do. That is the problem. We're asking for a solution for our daily occurrences, for our livelihoods, for our children. I mean, we want to build a school, or we want to build a neighborhood next to a school, but you're not thinking about the children that are here already, that are being born into this. This is affecting so many more people than the 98 complaints you got, or however many complaints you got. This is affecting so many more people, but people don't want to come here because you don't listen. That's why you're only getting 40 responses. We need a change, and not the kind of change where you put a water bottle plant in or a new neighborhood in. We need current existing people who live here change. Thank you.
And just to answer your health question, from MDH Health, sorry. I know I'm doing this twice and I'm naughty, but I've never been a rule follower. From MDH, health affects children and adults who drink water with high levels of manganese for a long time may have problems with memory, attention, motor skills. Infants, babies under the year of 1, which I will have, God help me, may develop learning and behavior problems if they drink water with too much manganese in it. And heaven forbid that something happens to my first grandchild, because you think I'm batshit crazy now? Wait till that, because I'm still convinced that both of my dogs died during that test period. And heaven forbid if I ever decide to test those ashes, I'm coming unglued. Because seeing Titan collapse like that, out of the blue, that young, healthy dog. So I really love this community. I love this city. I want a community, but right now it's damaged. And I'm damaged because I deal with this every day. Every day. Have you ever scrubbed a toilet with iron out every day and turn on the shower and have to let it run and pray to God it's not poopy brown or a yucky color? it's just nerve-wracking that it all started almost 3 years ago. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cameron Cooper. I live at 10452 245th Street East. Mr. Schweik, I understand your point that nothing's changed in the water, and I agree. I'll say that that's fine, nothing's changed. But what we're dealing with to treat our water has changed. Since the pump test, which you've talked about, increased oxidization in our pipes, right? I had a hole in my well. I've also had to put in a water treatment system beyond what I've already had. So to your point, yes, the water hasn't changed, but what we're doing with the water to even make it somewhat safe, and I'm listening to these people and like, holy crap, I'm glad I'm not dealing with some of what they got going on. And Josh, I sent you an email and the whole council last year an email regarding the health concerns with regards to manganese, and you just made my point for me, so thank you. But I have 2 little kids. You're talking about potential behavior change. You're talking about potential learning difficulties. All of these things that now I have more manganese in my water. Hey, by the way, oxidization is occurring. You're also messing with the pumping systems, right? There's an increase in pumping stress. That changes arsenic levels in the water. That's been documented. Arsenic is tasteless. Arsenic will kill you. It will cause kidney cancer, bladder cancer, liver cancer. It will also increase my kids' likelihood of having type 2 diabetes. They're 4 and 5. They didn't ask for that. And the hard part for me, and this gentleman back here made a really good point, is what does the future look like? I now potentially, if my child is diagnosed with diabetes, now have to deal with a lifelong health complication for the rest of her life that will put her at greater risk of other musculoskeletal problems, neurological problems, gastrointestinal problems. She didn't choose that. And I think the hard thing here, fine, you didn't change the water. I appreciate that. You didn't change it. But what's coming into our house and what's going into us is changing. And I have well tests that document the changes in my well. I've also spent $8,500 trying to prevent some of these things from potentially poisoning my family. And the hard part here is that we don't want to talk about it. We're going to give you $150. Cool. What about the lifelong health complications for people? What about for me? I'm 37. I want to be on this planet for a long time. My kids, they're 4 and 5. My wife, she's 40. What's this going to look like for us in 15 years, 20 years, where we're drinking water concentrations that have up to 4 times the health limit for manganese? Or now all of a sudden, a tasteless, odorless chemical is in my water and it's going to give me diabetes or possibly give me cancer. Thank you.
Good evening. I have a picture here to show you right away.
Dawn, name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. Dawn Weitzel, 26340 Thomas Avenue. And we also have wells at 26106 and 26148 Newton Circle. I want to show you a picture here of, this is my iron filter that was cleaned during testing. I didn't know what was going on. I hadn't been told that testing was happening and that may be a result. All I knew was I didn't have water pressure at the time. And the cost to clean the aeration head was $400, not $150. You know, I have a letter dated to council from December 2022 expressing my concerns about the potential of a business coming in. In the letter, I stated that the residents and businesses in the area deserved protection and guarantees. I wrote another letter stating on August 1st, 2024, stating that we had received the questionnaire about the well data. I wrote how disappointed and disgusted that I was that the questionnaire was sent out as the construction of the new business was taking place. An afterthought. That's how I felt that residents and businesses were being treated at the time. And now we're here discussing how residents and businesses are unfairly spending up to thousands of dollars for the repercussions of a business that doesn't have to pay past, current, or future damages. When we were one of the severely impacted wells, and the city had Hartman come out and add more pipe. We also spent $1,300 of our own money to add additional pipe, knowing that the city administrator had said that there was no remediation fund. And we didn't want to be caught in a bad situation. Now, City Council has allowed a new business in town that's monetarily impacting longtime residents and businesses. We'll be the ones paying higher taxes to cover remediation efforts. In addition, we're being told now that we just have to buy more filters. While the health issues related to manganese and arsenic were noted in the council report, it wasn't stated who would have to pay for the regular safety testing of our wells. We deserve fair compensation and regular testing of our wells. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Okay, I would like to thank all of you for coming out and speaking with us. We are now going to discuss as a council the compensation, the presentation. You obviously are very welcome to stay. And then further questions, comments, I have written down a lot of what you guys have said. We will gather those questions and make comments and be getting back to you either via email. Please make certain that you have left phone numbers, emails, so we know how to get back in touch with you. Would be appreciated. All right, council. Okay. We'll just give it a few minutes. Two-minute break.
Two-minute recess. Madam Acting Mayor?
You need a motion or anything for that, or can she just call it?
She can just do it.
Yep, 2-minute recess. Okay, I believe we are going to restart our council meeting. So if you are in the hallway and you want to join us, please come back inside and take a seat. Otherwise, if you can quiet down just a bit. All right, so council, let's start talking. Who has, well, compensation-wise, water quality, aquifer test finding, I know I made a promise to our residents and our constituents 2-3 years ago to listen to them. And I understand that the staff has done a great job putting this all together for us to listen to and throwing a number out there for us to talk about. I would like to ask the council to consider not doing the $150 and going case by case and forming something similar to our appeals committee, where there is 1 or 2 council members with a staff member and a Bolton and Mink engineer, somebody from LRE, where we sit one-on-one with our residents and discuss. They bring in their hard facts of where their well are at, and we make decisions with them one-on-one.
Is that for everyone who's, just the people who are documented being complained, or everyone
Correct.
who's had problems? Okay.
Well, and maybe I have a question, or to even back up further before we start talking about solutions, compensation, different things like that. What we're talking about tonight, and for this discussion, is related to the documented issues or the complaints related to the however many weeks, 4 week or
40.
so period of time in November to December of 2023. We're not talking about the ongoing issues. This is separate and distinct from that discussion. So any compensation thing tonight that we're talking about is related to that and that alone. Ongoing, current, future issues will be dealt with and separate from that currently, as it sits right now, $150 compensation thing. And so, am I correct in
Correct.
that?
Correct.
That was the intent and the purpose of the information that was provided tonight. It was for that distinct incident during that distinct time frame.
And I mean, I feel like then there's, so we, again, I'm not trying to, whatever,
Nope,
but
that's all
it's
right.
like, we need to have that discussion and come to a consensus if we can tonight on what that should be and how we address that. And then I think there's a separate discussion of ongoing issues. How is that handled? What is the plan that's in our water plan? I mean, we have a lot of that built in already, and then how do we communicate that with folks so that they know what to do for ongoing issues and what they can expect as responses, remediation, whatever it might be? Because I think they're two separate big discussions.
big
But this one is
discussions.
a bigger discussion, to
Mhm.
me. When we're talking about tonight, or supposed to be talking about tonight, is the 4 week period of time 2 years
Correct.
ago.
Yes.
Shouldn't
But you,
the mayor be here for this? Mayor Andrew Gangfield?
he unfortunately is not here.
We know that. We found out, he found out yesterday at noon this meeting was happening. He's in training. I
Correct.
think before anything can be decided, aren't I right, Tom? The existing mayor needs to be here, not Kate Timmerman.
I will go ahead and let Andrea answer that as our attorney.
This council can address any issues before it as a quorum of the council. The mayor does not have to be here. You are the acting mayor, and you can make the decision on a 3-4 vote.
But on good faith.
Did the mayor
should be here.
provide any feedback related to the topic?
He did not provide anything that he specifically wanted me to relate to the council.
Did he ask us or suggest that we hold off and that he needed to be part of the conversation?
My understanding was that he did not indicate that the council needed to hold off to make a decision.
Because he just found out.
We have had our calendars since January. These have been pre-planned meetings.
Yes, but he just found out the logistics, what was on the agenda.
The mayor's,
So I will speak for him as a PD family. I know that he is in training right now, and I think good faith to all of us stakeholders would be that our mayor be here because that's who we voted for.
And I guess the only thing I would correct in that is we all knew what the agenda was going to be weeks ago for this meeting, so that's not accurate. I mean, I didn't remember when, so like, part of what I want to correct too in what I said, or how I said it perhaps, is we, as a royal we, not staff, so my comments were not directed at how staff handled this, because we have weekly or bi-weekly meetings with staff to talk about upcoming agenda items. I was had my own, so I had that information. I knew at that point in time, this was going to be on the agenda, ran through it, could have provided feedback and comments. I could have said, notify all well owners that this meeting is coming up. I failed to do that, so I have to own that piece of it. I didn't think about it. It didn't cross my mind in the moment when we go through during that weekly or bi-weekly one-on-one. So my comments of we should have, it was not staff should have notified, we all should have, I should have, I'll speak for myself, I should have suggested that we notify this in a more public way to let folks know so that you could come out, provide feedback, listen to the discussion. So I just want to make that absolutely 100% clear.
Is that your job though, Josh, or is that Tom?
I think that is our job. I'll speak for myself. I feel my job as city council, like it is on any board that I'm on or anything like that, is my job to provide that direction and that overall guidance. Do I do the day-to-day operations? No, I don't have to. I trust the people that do that. But if I feel that there are reasons and things and topics that are more important, or I want to highlight certain things, or I have a personal whatever to it, that's my job to then, and it's all of our jobs collectively to make sure that we're looking out for the best interests, in this case, of our residents. And I think we heard it multiple times. I'll only speak for myself. I represent the residents that vote me in, but I also represent, in a way, more indirectly, and this is no indirect shot at the residents that actually pay for the taxes, that pay for me to be on this seat, that vote for me. I represent the surrounding community as well, the neighbors that we interact with that ultimately will be someday potentially in the city, that will be voting for a council that I won't be on. So we do have an accountability, at least in some part, to represent the township and folks as well. You know, we all have different maybe opinions on how far that reaches or whatever, but absolutely. So my voice, our voice, I think, should represent some of those factors too.
I just think as the stakeholders, I think it's only fair that we have the full committee here, not a standing-in mayor, but that we have our mayor here. So that's just my opinion.
Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
I have a question. You guys are talking about...
Can you come up to the microphone? Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. Jamie Gurman. We live at 230th Street in Newmarket Township, the city of Lakeville. And the question I have is, you're talking about cases that are documented. What about the people, and I kid you not, who have gone through mental anguish, feeling like something's going on with the well, but I'm not quite sure what's going on? Multiple tests, we've had people out, we've had a lot of money invested into this. My husband's taken it all apart, different systems put into place, all the receipts from that. And the reason I say that is because the only reason I knew that something was going on, and like I said, we live in the city of Lakeville, Newmarket Township, was from a newspaper article. And I went to one of Janelle's water testing clinics in the dead of winter because I thought, well, shoot, we should probably go investigate this. Maybe we aren't out of our minds. And so I don't have documentation. I might have emailed with you some time ago, but I was reassured that Niagara was good to go, everything was fine, there were no problems, and I kind of went with the trust in our city council, I suppose. So my question is, we don't have documentation with any of you. I have receipts, so where do I go from here? And just to let you know, the compensation, $150 is like a slap in the face compared to our receipts.
And that's what we're here to discuss
No,
tonight.
I understand.
Yep.
I'm just saying it's significant. And it's put a financial strain on us. And like I said, the mental anguish of saying, what's going on? Why is this, our well, bond put in our well in 2012? I mean, we put it in, we built, and we shouldn't be having all these problems. Our iron content is through the roof. We have manganese in our water. I mean...
Ma'am, what's your address?
We're at 8219 228th Street.
One more time, one person.
8219 208th Street East.
228th Street East. City of Lakeville.
This is to help me answer one of your questions.
So that is quite a pole in our property. It joins my mother's.
And she's had
Her
issues.
water was radically changed as well.
Okay, so, to answer your question, you didn't know about it, Rich had talked earlier on that we had sent notices out to, just let me.
But how
fin- let me-
far?
Let me finish, ma'am.
Mhm.
To well owners within 2.5 miles, and that was like 900 property owners. You are just beyond that, so you are correct. You did not receive a notice of, hey, if you are seeing issues, that's why.
But my deal is that when I go back and I do all the documentation and the photographs I have, and we still have in our basement our old iron rust remover that he won't get rid of, and I'm sure it's due to the fact of its proof of what we've gone through, it all coincides. How can you tell me you do a stress test, this pump stress the well, and then in April, beginning of April, we have, what we have to have done with Bond, our new pump?
Just had
Multiple issues, and we have all
Complete
the
water system.
receipts and stuff, but
So I think the question is, how do you get on the list? We were outside, right? Our dwelling is outside of. Okay, so we're undocumented, yeah. But we need to be documented, so I think there needs to be some type of platform, right, for that to exist.
So we do have a platform, but the awareness of it, the distance that we have was arrived at based on feedback from the DNR, information that we had from the pump test, et cetera, saying 2.5 miles would be the reasonable extent of people that would be impacted based on the information that we had at the time. And we did our best effort to notify everybody within that radius. So it's not disagreeing with anything that you said, but you asked why, and that's essentially the why. As far as a platform, we had established a platform. We have a contact. It's My Private Well, the My Private Well email for people to communicate, so that one, we're making sure that those communications we know are specific to issues related to the private well owners around it, so it doesn't get lost in the mix of the other city business. It's so we can account for it and we can provide accountability for responsiveness to it. None of that answers the question of that you didn't get notified. You clearly didn't receive that, but you're asking why. Because the 2.5 miles was determined to be that reasonable distance to identify people who might experience impacts, and you guys are just a little bit beyond
so
that.
where do we go now?
You've done what you need to do at this point. We have your information
So we're
related to it.
documented and part of this.
Yeah, I mean, you've
Fiasco.
raised the question, and that's one of the questions that the council had directed staff, say, okay, based on the information you had related to the complaints at the time, which we heard a lot about people talking about experiences outside of that time frame, which is a different topic to go to Councilmember Berg's issue. And based on the information that we had received at that time, the nature of the complaints and our communications with those people, how they resolved themselves, et cetera, our recommendation related to that is the $150. If people are experiencing ongoing issues, and if those issues are related to it, related to the city's pumping efforts, that's a separate discussion than I had to do extra filter replacement during that window versus I'm continuing to do ongoing filter replacement.
I
So
understand
our
that.
recommendation of the $150, to be blunt, is not intended to be insulting in any way. It's not intended to sweep it under the rug.
It is.
It reflects the feedback that we had during that time, that most people experienced discoloration of water beyond what they did, and they had to do maintenance beyond what they did, which largely consisted of more frequent replacing of filters and the time and effort associated with that, and possibly cleaning up fixtures.
And more.
But
And more.
that was based on the information that we had from the people that did respond to what we sent out at the time. That was all the information we have. It's the information we had to make a recommendation to the council.
I don't know if it's accurate information is what I'm telling you, and I liked your idea.
Not disagreeing, but people are asking the why. That's the
No,
basis.
I understand. You've explained that several times. I think what you have said of sitting down with someone and going through what everybody's individual experiences were, because ours is far beyond replacing a filter. So,
Thank you. And you did sign in, correct?
I did,
Yes.
with my phone number.
Thank you.
Can I piggyback real quick?
Sure.
My name's Chris. I'm at 26698 Woodcrest Circle. So I was in a position where I put a well in this time. I honestly don't know how much formal documentation I've provided with you guys. So like to her question, what do I do to be on the list of considering for compensation?
When did your well go in?
January 1st, 2024. And I'm pretty sure it was right after, like,
So that would have been after the test was complete.
right after the test. Then they went out.
Yep. So what we're talking about tonight is for people that were impacted with existing wells during the test.
But wasn't that test like 6 days before that?
It ended, well, if you said end of January, 2-3 weeks before.
No,
your
the
well was installed.
first day of January. New Year's Day. I had a well put in. And didn't your testing go through
It ended on it ended on December 6th,
of 23 or 24?
23.
So
You
So your well went in after.
replaced your
it
well?
went in, yeah, but it went in, I replaced the well on the 1st. So right after you guys were done testing.
So you had a current well and you had to replace it because of the testing.
Potentially.
Is what you're
Yes.
bringing forward.
Potentially, yes. And I
Okay.
just want to know, like, how do I go about it? I don't,
Well, so given the forum tonight, we would want to take a look at the specific circumstances. So as you're heading out, if you can just give your contact information to Rich, we will probably ask you for some more information to see if there's a reasonable or plausible connection between
Okay.
what we did and what happened in your specific circumstances.
sounds good. And Hartman did it, so, I mean, documentation that they would have had. Thank you.
That's
Thank
actually-
you.
Well, I think I know where you're at, so. Good, we're good.
Okay, so let's back up just a bit to Jamie's concern. Is there anyone on the council that would like to pull this to put it for 2 weeks from today?
It's not against anybody, I just think that it's only fair when tons of people voted him in as mayor and he's not here. Like, it doesn't feel right. It feels pre-planned. Right, Tom? Tom, right, Tom?
Right.
You know what I'm talking about. You pre-planned, and this is not fair. Our mayor should be here. This is just a happening of yours, Tom,
So-
over
so-
and
so-
over and
so
over,
Jamie-
and everybody believes
so Jamie,
that.
Jamie.
Read Elko Newmarket Neighbors, Tom. It's all over from the citizens.
I don't
They're
appreciate,
angry.
I don't appreciate the accusations.
Well, I'm sorry
I-
then, Tom, if you
Okay.
didn't
Are you gonna let
handle
me
that,
So-
but read Elko Newmarket Neighbors.
The mayor knew that this was a target date for this discussion well in advance of when he
Didn't know
advised
you were
staff
gonna
to
make
make it.
decisions tonight. So that surprised all of us.
I'm sorry, I can only tell you that. The council was well aware that we were shooting for this general meeting for this general topic. The specific information they did not get until the packet came out, but they had a general idea of what the topic was gonna be. They had a general understanding of what the cause nature was gonna be that was gonna be
But if
presented.
decisions are made here tonight, Tom, look at how many people are left.
And I would-
wait until the video comes out, whenever it comes out, because you're gonna have a community of outraged citizens. We don't want that.
Okay, so Jamie, I appreciate your insight and everything, but let us figure out what we're gonna do up here, please, and thank you.
It seems like Kate's going down a good road. The individual meeting
Yes.
with individuals.
Well, we're gonna decide here what we're gonna do as far as if we're going to continue our conversation or if we would like to have it pulled.
Don't look at me. With the intent that there will be a full council?
And to that note, I will not be here at the next meeting. It'll only be the second one that I've missed this year. But as someone who is also new on the council and who is here, I could go either way, but I would like to hear what Andrew has to say. And I wish maybe comments were provided prior.
Thank you.
So we could discuss it further, but
But you will not be in attendance in 2 weeks.
I will not. But
Is
maybe
there
it's
any
less about-
chance that we will have the ability for her to Zoom in 2 weeks? If we were to take this off the plate today, when does that availability for council members to Zoom in to a meeting? Is that any time now, or does that not start till January?
No, she could Zoom in if that's an option for her.
We're not required, my understanding previously is we were required to have an adopted city policy in order for that to be the
You
case.
just have to have it on your website, a notice that she will be Zooming in.
Okay.
Would that be an option for you?
I can make that work.
Can she vote when she's on Zoom?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, I have no problem taking action tonight. We do this in the 11 years I've been on council. We don't always have a full council, and we make decisions. Have we decided to push stuff until we get a full council? Absolutely. So I can understand the justification to do that as well. I have no problem, though, making decisions with or without anybody here. If there's 3 of us here, I'd still be comfortable making a decision. We all knew this was going to be on the topic or on the agenda. To Tom's point, my brain was refreshed on Monday or Tuesday when I was told that the packet was posted, and I started reading it last night. So, like, it was enlightening, and that's where some of the questions that I do have now didn't come up during one-on-ones or previous feedback, because some of those questions were sparked during reading some of the details. So if I wasn't here, I would have, well, that's not fair to say. So, I mean, I can go either way. But I'd be completely fine moving forward and making decisions, having a discussion.
Okay. And I could go either way.
I'm indifferent.
Do we just move forward?
So
It's your decision.
It's
It's our
yeah.
decision. It's
Yep.
not Tom's, it's not anybody else's in here except for ours. So we get to decide.
Okay.
So I'm not hearing a strong consensus
I'm
to
not
hold it
hearing a
off.
strong consensus to hold off, so I would say that we move forward with this
And
discussion.
we can continue to have the discussion, and if we get to a certain point where we're like, now it's getting dicey, and
Correct.
we want to pivot, and we want all feedback, then we can
Then we
pivot.
can pull it
But
at that
let's continue
point.
the discussion, I think.
Okay.
Especially with comments. I don't know. And then we
No,
can
I'm
decide.
fine with that. All right, guys. I said my 2 cents.
I think I agree with your 2 cents, but also concerned about others who aren't documented in this set. And is that part of like what you're saying of like we'll address later, or are you saying like ongoing is like a separate conversation?
I think we need to quantify and qualify what we're going to take for the documented people. I think that has to be part of this discussion.
Yes, and I mean, I think related to the proposed compensation for the 4-week period and potential issues, I mean, I think my brain says if folks are comfortable with that, and this relates to what complaints that they had based on the questionnaires that we received and the general feedback that we got, and this feels like it's an appropriate thing. I mean, Rich and staff didn't pull this out of thin air. It was made up of the data, the feedback, and the information that was received from everybody that came in. And so if that represents, I'm making up a number, 80% of the complaints and 80% of the issues, and they're comfortable with that, accept it. And then take the 150 and move on. If we think 150 is the right number, take the compensation, I guess I'll just say. But then, where I worry about is that 10 to 20 or whatever that percent is that was above and beyond, that, I don't know. I mean, I trust the experts, I trust the input and the rationale. It all makes sense. Do I continue to hate the fact that the agencies, the Department of Health, the Department, or DNR, continue to, I mean, they provide feedback, they generally support, and they don't really, provide a whole lot of guidance. So, I mean, they leave it up to us to make it right or make the wrong decision, and I think they enjoy the fact that they then don't have to be held accountable at all. And it's a general topic and feeling I get with some state agencies here. So, I mean, I want us to do better, and I want us to be able to, I don't want to put anybody in a spot where they have to accept something that doesn't meet the needs of what actually happened to them, and that's not fair, that's not equitable, that is not right. And so, I mean, I think it's a good faith attempt to start with this, and then, if folks are comfortable with it and it matches what happened, and they want to accept it, I think it's great. But then I think there needs to be another portion of that. So I don't think we need to do case-by-case review of everything and everyone. Now, with that said, this still only relates to the 48 or 68 and 45 that responded correct. Like, that's what I think we need to define, plus or minus anybody that feels like they weren't notified or weren't notified, or feels like maybe they missed the submitting something or things like that. Now, we continue to open this up, and now it's gonna be years before we get this resolved. So we also have to then,
I think, like I said, I think there has to be deadlines. Obviously, these people cared enough to come out today because they found out about the meeting, and they're with Rich's information, Rich has their information now. I think this is where we as a council have to decide, are they making the list? Are we going to sit down and talk to them one-on-one, see what their concrete evidence is, and discuss with them what happened? Obviously, we can't leave this open for 2 years for these 4 weeks that we had, because we're going to have to come up with a plan for what the future holds and what we are going to be doing in the future of when this happens again. But right now, for this 4 weeks, I think these few people that have stepped up today, I would like to see them on that list so that we can discuss with them.
and I mean, I think one of the things that I remember from as talking about it, reading through it, and I don't know where it is, I've been trying to scroll through and find it, but like, if they accept compensation related to this 4-week period, or I guess, or don't, and maybe this is an Andrea question too, what other avenues do they have? Because right now, one of the problems I have with some of our state agencies is we don't have any path other than to sue that entity to get them to act or not act in a certain way. But even when we do sue, then we change the statutes or the rules or the whatever that the authority that allows them to do certain things. So we never really have an actual means to have any action taken or stopped. So, I mean, outside of not accepting this and continuing to pursue it, I mean, what should folks do? I mean, sue the city, and then I worry about that, because then we're gonna have
Yes.
everybody sue the city, and that's gonna be extra, cost on us, cost on folks that are doing it, headache for everybody.
Yeah.
So,
Josh, I think that's up to the council. This was a recommendation
Right,
for an
right.
approach to make
Yeah.
it quick and easy. If you wanted to add, I think, an appeal process of some kind, they can accept it, or they have to go through some hoops to get before.
Yeah.
That's up to you.
yeah.
As far as attorney fees, Josh, though, those are reversed. City.
Yes, I mean, it would, you can set up your process, whatever you think is fair. What you're doing is you're essentially avoiding some lawsuits by coming up with a compromise scenario. I mean, each side has to determine how much they want to spend on attorney's fees and a lawsuit. So, and that will depend on what the actual costs were related to whatever the issue is. So, anything you can do to mitigate those and be fair, great. If things get too excessive, then you may want to consider allowing, having those people bring an action, and then they prove up their case.
And I think that's what we're trying to discuss right now, is what are our parameters. It was a suggestion, a recommendation from the staff.
Yeah, No, I mean, and it's like any negotiation. This is a starting point. It's a react to it. It's on paper now. Now we can respond and provide feedback and comments like we do with any planning thing. So, I mean, I would perhaps like us to consider an appeal process or some sort of way other than just simply suing the city. So something like that. I would also, wonder, see, this is where it starts to blur though. And it's the ongoing and forever, potentially future issues not related to this is, factoring in ongoing or regularly recommended or whatever the best practice is for testing and reimbursement for things like that. And so like again, it might be separate from this discussion piece, and that's what, we need to really firm up, I think.
And I think, in all honesty, I think right now we're discussing the 4 weeks, and then I think we need Andrew here when we're discussing what we're going to do for the future and what that plan looks like. That's my thought. I don't mean to be telling you guys what, but that's just my opinion. You guys, I want to hear your opinions as well and what your thought process is.
I agree, but I think we're just talking about the 4-week process tonight, right now, yeah.
So even with the 4-week thing, I mean, I think, based on, like I said, what was proposed was a draft, an idea based on the feedback that was given. Again, not made up, not malicious in any way, not a slap in the face intentionally to anything, any part of this. It was based on the information that we received at the time to be able to pull forward something. So I think that is a good place to start. So $150, but I also, maybe there's something to the, like an appeal or a request for above and beyond that for these factors. And then a requirement with timelines of, all right, if you don't accept it because of whatever, you need to then follow up with any documentation you might have to support it, which may not exist, and we have to accept the fact that it may not exist either, and then we'll determine how that works in our approval or denial process. And I think, so then allowing for that space to the appeal, like the appeals board.
Right,
type
so
thing.
are we looking to do this through the appeals committee that we have, or do we want to start a new one that's just for,
Hey, as part of the water
Okay.
quality response plan, there's kind of an appeals process built into that. Are you guys aware of that?
yep,
Okay.
okay.
So with regards to this particular issue, there's always the possibility, when you have this issue, there's always the possibility somebody has a unique circumstance, right? So that was one of the feedback items and direction we were looking for from the council tonight. How do you deal with that? What if somebody was just outside that area? You guys were planning to talk about that. What if somebody has unique circumstances? The recommendation that we made was just a general recommendation related to that. What I hear the council discussing is the possibility for like an appeals, like here it is, if you feel it's beyond and you feel you have, can make a good case that it should be more than that, to provide for like an appeals board. Now, in that case, you could establish a group, an ad hoc group, to handle that in this situation, but they would not be able to make the final decision right, because tonight, you guys as a council would be saying, this is what we feel is appropriate in most cases, but if you're gonna also do that, the council also has to approve those extra cases. So you could establish a group, but it would be to basically
Make a recommendation.
fact
to
find,
council.
make a recommendation.
And I think that's fair. I mean, and I think, yes, so if the point of tonight too was to provide the feedback, to refine, what we're going to do in these situations, I think that's what we're trying to do. I mean,
So you would still send out the $150?
I mean, I think, and maybe that's up to staff of what we think we should, do we need to go back and refine the letters, the things that are gonna go out to say, because we're gonna have to add, if you disagree with this or don't accept this, here's what you do for next steps.
We haven't sent that
No,
letter yet,
and
but
so I
we
mean, we'll
could.
have to tweak it anyway.
We would tweak it anyways to reflect,
Right.
it was going to be written based on the direction that we received
right.
tonight. So if there is that option, say, here it is, it's based on this, if you want to, you could
Just to be clear, the notice I referenced earlier was for an entirely separate effort.
Yes.
The future
Not-
sampling.
Not to respond
Right.
to these complaints.
So nothing has been preconceived,
No.
pre-done.
Correct.
And so that should be very clear too. I think, so none of this was laid in front of us outside of what's in the packet that's public to everybody else. So we're reacting to it like everybody else to a certain extent and trying to refine, add suggestions, whatever.
So
Please question the dollar amount. I wanted to know if you think the plumber came out to my house for $150.
Right, well,
Would you get plumbing done?
yeah, and unfortunately, right now, we just need to be able to get through the conversation up here at the council. We understand that you guys are extremely upset about the $150. So let us finish our conversations here so that we can move on and hopefully not be here till midnight. Thank you.
So with regards to it, if you're looking at an appeals process, there's really two key pieces. Who's that group and what's the composition of it? The other point, and it was mentioned, is a time frame. So if we're gonna provide for this, we can send out the notice, but do you want to provide additional opportunities for people to get more information? So the purpose tonight, in the originally envisioned process that had been presented to council, is that we would present you guys with information, you would give us some direction, we would then take that we would then go out and present that information to the public at this open house and informational meetings and such like that. So take that into account. Is there additional communication that would need to be done, allotting time for that, and then allowing a reasonable amount of time for somebody to consider whether or not they wanted to enter that appeal process? What should that look like and what should that time frame be? I agree from a staff standpoint. You have to say, here it is, here's your option, you need to do it within a reasonable time frame. The question is what's reasonable for them to be able to make that decision, pull information together, and then make that request.
And I think I would look at Andrea, what would be a reasonable time frame for somebody once they receive said letter to be able to get back to the saying, I wanna do the appeals process.
I would generally say 30 days,
From,
the date of the letter.
Date of the letter.
What I'm thinking about is whether we can decouple the 4-week pump test response from the effort to notify people, provide information on what we found, but not all of those are complainants, and most of them aren't. One of the reasons we're planning this pump event is so that we can trigger our round 2 sampling, which goes to the long term. We've got sample from before pumping increased much. Now we'll have a sample from when we're pumping pretty hard. We'll have another one when it's down. The sooner we can get that done, perhaps continue it, perhaps go to a different sample. But we do need to do those 3 steps. It's already looking at October. If we push that out a month, then we're sampling when it's freezing, and we don't want to do that. So
I'm thinking that this is just for that 68 people or whatever, plus the few that showed up this evening. This letter would be for those people, right?
so we would,
And then the one you're talking about is going back out to the 900 some people
keeps
again.
going.
Yeah, so it's 2 totally separate letters.
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah. That,
When you say people here tonight, are you talking about people physically here or Zoom as well?
I don't know.
I just know we
heard
had-
from anybody on Zoom as far as a
Just curious.
complaint. I mean, the few people that actually came up and said something to us and got information to Rich.
but that's a good point.
I didn't get information to Rich.
I didn't either.
But you're on that list right there.
Okay.
So, we need to discuss that. It could include the 25 people that are on, looks like there's.
Well, half of them are us.
Half of them are us, but yes. I mean, these are parameters that we have to set.
I would like for them to be included, if possible. It's not that many more additional anyways.
So we would need to take a break in this meeting for the people that are online, have them provide us with information if they're intending to do that, because Batman does not tell us who to send the letter to. no offense to that individual, I think that's a great moniker for the meeting, but it's an example of we just don't know who those people are, so we need to, during the meeting here, request them to provide us with information.
Can they not raise their hand and chat in or anything too? So, I mean, if we say, hey,
Correct, but we would need to provide that opportunity.
Just a question, we did get some emails today from people saying, hey, I had an issue. We went and checked the records and I have the envelopes. They were mailed this information in July of 2024. So if they were notified in time to make a claim, do you still want to try and add them to this pool? Or is there some kind of, otherwise it's gonna keep growing and growing?
Or is it only certain classes, like individuals who are within a certain distance outside of the notification area who weren't notified? Do you want to include that came? You know, what are those parameters?
But I see both, but we don't.
I can guarantee one thing, whatever decision you like, somebody's not gonna like it.
Sure.
So,
we have to live with it. That's
I think our memo talked about going to 3 miles despite not notifying. That's a fairly arbitrary number. The drawdown was maybe a foot, but you could go an extra half a mile or however, that's up to you.
so you could say anybody within X number of miles that provided a complaint at the time or came to the meeting tonight who did not receive previous notification. That's very easy for us to determine.
I have a question. Where could I get a copy of the letter that was sent out to residents?
If you give me your email at the end of the meeting, I'll email it to you tomorrow.
Okay, but first what we have to do is we have to get said people on line to give us their information.
if they want to, if they have any reason to.
I would,
Some are probably just enjoying this as an entertaining Thursday night.
Right.
But
So, how do you want me to,
Could they drop it in the chat? And then
yeah,
let it
can
be
they just
captured?
drop it in the chat, or?
we don't allow chat, so
Oh.
we're gonna need them to raise their hand, ask them to come
Okay,
on
if
and
there's
say-
anyone online that would like their information submitted for the,
I have a hand raised. We have one.
raise your hand,
Yeah,
please.
anybody that would like to be noted as
Okay,
filing
Tara,
the fact.
do you know how to
I hit unmute.
okay.
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Tara, can you provide us with just the general gist of what you experienced and your name and address, and we can follow up with you?
Yeah, we had the same kind of things with the miscolored water. Still are experiencing that stuff today, but during the testing and stuff, and then basically almost seemed like daily we were cleaning our filters out and flushing things and having to buy new filters and iron filters things and different, like, you know, just going through parts and filters a lot faster than normal during that tump phase or whatever.
Okay, so if you can provide us with your name and address, and if if the mailing address is different than your home address, if you could give us that, because then we can mail you a questionnaire to get more information from you.
Yep, it's Tara, and it's Terra. Last name's Henry, Henry. Address is 9987 240th Street East, Lakeville, Minnesota, 55044.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Do we have anyone else online? Let's see. I'm not missing anyone that raising their hand, correct? Okay.
If you guys don't mind, I'm gonna go get information over here.
Okay, so.
I would just, to the degree if someone's having trouble raising their hand or trying to unmute or say something, just send an email to the My Private Well email so that we know that you're wanting to be contacted.
Receive it within the next hour, we'll know you were.
Correct.
I say send it to anovak@ci.enm.
That works too. .us is the end of that.
Is that direction in, first of all, are we all in agreement with this? If we ask, is that enough direction given
What? Repeat. What is
for
our-
the appeals?
Maybe if I summarize what I thought I
Yes,
heard,
that's
and then
what
you
I'm
guys
kind of
can
asking
do
for.
this or that. So what I thought, the direction I heard from the council, there we go, was that generally what was in the staff recommendation with regards to the settlement, but we would be adding to that general structure the idea that if they want to appeal that amount, they can do so within 30 days, and then we'll explain the process that they need to do, which would basically be they need to contact us and they need to provide XYZ information related to it. I think that's really, is that what I, as far as contacting well owners, is that what I heard? And that as far as who would be included on that would be everybody that was described within the memo, plus anybody that came tonight to express concern. I think we're still looking for a parameter as far as like a reasonable.
Because if you're just a quarter mile outside or an eighth of a mile, or, you know.
So is it not 2.5 miles, it's 3.5 miles, or 3 miles, or 4 miles? I think we need to set a box on that, would be my recommendation.
I
So you
would
just,
say they were, what were they, like 3 miles?
it was driving mileage, so it was 3.2, so actual,
$6,000 system in, and she's like just at the 3 mile mark.
So
And
maybe-
she may have filed a claim with the city.
so I would say
3.5?
to make sure, yeah, so to Janelle's point, and to capture people that we have an idea, maybe 3.5 miles.
3.5?
Is that everyone that was impacted by the drawdown? Like, how far did the drawdown go out? Because like, you're trying to put people in a box.
So theoretically, it goes out infinitely, but it gets so small that it's
Right.
at
Appreciate
around
that.
that 3.5 miles, yeah.
We were talking about pump stresses earlier and changes, right? And oxidization and increasing
Yeah.
pressure on their pumps.
So from our drawdown test, we would expect that at 3 miles, you're less than a foot, maybe half a foot. At 3.5, you're probably a couple inches, so minimal difference compared to people in that, and it goes up fairly quickly, so that's for the council. That's about all I can tell you. We don't know exactly at every well.
Well, and once we get too far, now we got Lakeville issues and development and things going in, and we have other potential reasons why there could be drawdown coming from this way and that way, and.
And the
I mean,
area grows exponentially.
So we have to draw a line, and we have to be okay with that, right, so.
I appreciate that, and that's all I'm saying,
Yeah,
is that
yeah.
like, if you are considering people that were impacted by the drawdown, why are we not looking at how far reasonably out the
Right.
drawdown went?
And I think that, and when we.
3 miles.
And when we had the discussion years ago, or whenever it was 2.5 miles that we landed on. We debated it, not debated, maybe we did, I don't remember, we discussed it.
DNR number, that
Yeah,
was a required.
When we talked with the DNR,
We wanted 5 miles, but there was too many wells.
when,
Right, and that's my point, is that, like, I understand that this number increases exponentially as you go out every quarter mile, every tenth of a mile. But to the point that Rich is saying is like, it goes out infinitely, and I agree that it can't be infinite.
Yeah.
But to draw it at 3.1, when somebody was 3.2 and definitely was impacted, like, that gets really hard, and like I said, you're trying to.
We
put
found
people
it
in a box.
difficult too. Thank you.
Right.
I think I heard 3.5, so that seems like a.
And that's where I guess, why are you not overestimating how far out to allow those people to then come to you and say, yes, I had a problem during this time period versus.
what I'm hearing the city engineer say is that 3.5 is that he had suggested 3 to take what you're talking about, sir, into account, and if the council went 3.5, it's adding some contingency on top of that.
Yep.
So I'm hearing 3.5 miles.
Sure.
Okay. So that being said, that's what would go out in the letter. What I'm hearing is 30 days response based on the city attorney's suggestion. Then I think the next question is, staff can craft, as far as the type of information we would request, it would be similar to the forms we've sent out previously. If they sent us a form, we'd ask them for any supplemental information that they might need if they indicate they want to so there might be some interaction with them prior to the actual formal review of their information to get what we can, asking follow-up questions possibly, et cetera. Who would be this board that would do the fact-finding and make a recommendation to the council?
I nominate the mayor since he's not here. Just kidding, I don't really care. I mean,
I just think we're gonna be in a tough spot coming up with this ad hoc group of who's gonna be involved, because no matter what, we're not gonna make everybody happy. Cause we hired experts that people don't like, and they brought their own experts that have differing opinions. Like, we're not going
I'm
to
not a water
make
expert,
everyone
so,
happy. We're not, like, it seems like what we're going into is settlement discussions based off of the test. And it's
Well, you're gonna get sued otherwise.
we're gonna get sued either way. It doesn't matter. Like,
Tell you that before.
we are going to get sued no matter what. Like, people are not, some people will not be happy no matter what we do. And I know that's just something that we have to live with. And we have to, you know, go through the process and do all of that. But I just struggle with coming up with this appeal group, reviewers, because how are we, like, I just think it has to be very technical.
Yeah.
It might be.
Development.
I would agree with all those points. I do think that what I heard from the council is that the purpose of this was to look at extenuating circumstances. So, for example, Dawn Weitzel had presented that they had a particular system and they feel they can definitely draw to the specific instance and demonstrate that the cost for them to rectify it wasn't $150, it was $400, for example. What I'm hearing is that would be the purpose of this group, that it's not just somebody comes in and says, yeah, this kind of happened, and that we'd be looking for something a little more concrete, a little bit more to demonstrate the issue and why the 150. But you would also be delegating, because they're making a recommendation, you delegate to that group to do the fact finding, and they're gonna make a recommendation, but the full council will have to decide whether or not it's appropriate.
Is the council coming up with then what we're going to ask this group to do? Like, to what detail are we giving the direction?
That's a good question. It would be up to you guys if you want to set a box on it. What I'm hearing is that this appeal group would basically hear any case being made by an individual who feels that the $150 is insufficient. And then this group would do what fact finding they feel is necessary to make a determination.
And I just want to make a clarifying point that we're saying $150 because that's a recommendation, but that's not what has been decided.
Correct.
And I'm not disagreeing with this group. I'm wondering, do we even need it though? I mean, this is we have staff. My main thing to get out of this was an alternative to accepting the 150 or whatever the proposed thing is, or suing the city. Like, I want alternative options. I could care less really, because it's gonna come back to us to make the final decision anyway, to accept whatever recommendations anyway, whether it's staff plus a council member to all council members. I mean, we could sit and have a council meeting that just debated or talked through all of these issues too. So I guess I don't know what value it adds unless, you know.
I guess I was thinking more like the appeals process, where we have a council member, we have.
Staff plays a technical role in those discussions and facilitates a process, but as the representatives of the larger public, like on the appeals board, I think what you're getting to, Kate, is on the appeals board, we have the topic matter, policy expert, finance person to kind of resolve that part of it, but there's a council member that's included to basically be kind of that member of the public to provide the, I don't want to say like the common sense or what's reasonable type of additional input, while staff feels that can be, absolutely, but it's a different perspective that, that goes beyond what our background and our role is in the process. I think I'm assuming that's what you're asking for. So based on my experience, there's value in that, but what it does is you're now taking that council person and you're kind of committing them to the recommendation when they come back to the larger group, so they've already had
already know what
input in
they're-
the.
yeah, we already know.
They're kind of already, but we do that with small bodies all the time. So I would limit it to maybe one. Obviously, it can only be one or two council people.
You'd want to be mindful of how long this might take too. If you have 30 of them and it's 2 hours each, it'd take you months to get through it. So the board might be useful in that regard.
Can there be like a pre-step of like a written appeal before it makes it to the committee? Or-
Kate had suggested that we would come down and do this. In our current Board of Appeals, we request that they provide information, we try and get everything relevant, and then that information is then presented. Individuals are welcome to come and observe, but for efficiency's sake, appeals board, like on utility bills, we don't, it's like you present your case, you get the information, we may, Steph, who handles the facilitation for that, she requests what more relevant information. If you're going to say no, it's going to be you come in and present your case, I guarantee you, each one of those will be an hour long. And may not be any more beneficial in my experience. That they submit everything they have as best they can. If they want to come, they can, but it wouldn't be intended to be a dialogue, would be to observe the proceedings so they really understand the decision or recommendation was made. Now, when it actually comes to council, I would say that would be the time. If their appeal is coming to council with a recommendation and they disagree with the recommendation, I would say that's the time that they should engage, because they're actually talking to the final decision makers. And I think that would be more efficient in the end. That's just my opinion.
I mean, for one, and I'll say this, I can't commit to being on that board. I don't have time to do half the stuff I do anyway, so I'm out. And so that's where I would defer to staff, or if one of you folks want to jump in, by all means, but I'm out. And not because I wouldn't want to, it's just I don't have time. And then my role is here, and I'll be held accountable here for the decisions that we make anyway, so.
Right. I have no problems helping where I can, whatever you need. I mean, it was my idea, it's my thinking, so if nobody else wants to be on it, I'd be on it.
I think from a staff standpoint, I think the point of having, appropriate technical experts, I would suggest that staff needs to talk about who would be really the best people to participate in that discussion.
And I think even that should be brought back potentially. I mean, so we're already kicking it, I think, because how much staff time is this going to take? We have a whole ton of other things going on as well, so there's going to be consequences to dedicating, volunteering staff to engage in this group when we have, 50 other things going on in the city that can't be disrupted in day-to-day operations, development happening, and, I mean,
I appreciate that, but we also made a promise to our constituents that we would listen, and now I feel that this is the best way for us to do that.
What I would suggest is this, is that while we're providing a 30-day time for them to enter the process will, the timing of the process after that will be dictated by the bandwidth we have to be able to get it done. We have really good staff. We have been short-staffed for an extended period of time, but that is changing. That will give us some greater capacity. And on some of these, for people who have already made requests, to a large degree, it's going to be, here's your request, what additional information do you have? So there will be some back and forth, but I think we'll make work whatever the council wants us to do, but we would just expect realistic expectations for how quickly it gets done.
Is this plan wiping any sort of initial offer off the table? In talking about a dollar amount, or are we still wanting to provide a dollar amount with an offer of?
That's what I heard, is that there would be a dollar amount, and if you disagree with the dollar amount, then you could enter the appeal process.
because I think we'll get, I would suspect, we're gonna get a lot of people that didn't have any issues that are gonna get $150 for nothing. And they'll be happy with it, or those that only had the filter changes and didn't see the other impacts. Because again, the recommendation was based off of a lot of the information we already have. So, I mean, I think wiping that piece out, and then we narrow the focus of these other cases that we wanna look at. All right, I mean, so yes, I think having something to accept or not, and then if you don't accept it, you don't have to sue the city. Here's the other process you go through.
And then when you don't like that, you can sue the city.
And then you can still sue the city, or come up here because the recommendation that comes from that group, you don't like it, we say, nope, you are only entitled up to the whatever dollar amount, then we can still do it here, have a full discussion and override that group and, or not, or whatever, so.
Does the council have suggestions on who would participate? Kate, sounds like she volunteered. Does the council have some suggestions on who they think or would prefer participate in that?
I heard the mayor get nominated.
The mayor was nominated. Corey, do you have any, would, Derek or somebody on your team have any sort of expertise or ability to weigh into these sorts of things? I don't know if that's just like a stretch.
It would be a little bit of a stretch because what we're dealing with is a little bit, I mean, this is kind of your guys' decision on, I mean, I have my thoughts on things, I mean, but I don't want my thoughts to weigh into what you guys are doing.
Fair.
It's a little nutty. I don't know if you can make it happen, but if it was me, I'd probably call Hartman and see if they had someone that could help us with this. They know that business better than anybody, or somebody like that.
Would we have to do like an RFP type thing to solicit somebody, or can we self-select, an expert
That'd be a
in the field?
professional service,
It'd
wouldn't
be
it?
a professional service, so as long as the cost wouldn't exceed, 35,000, 50,000, you don't have, you
Oh,
can
so then
just,
we're under that threshold
Yeah.
anyway, yeah.
And Hartman, was that the one with the most wells?
They did the most, so you might have to think about, is there a conflict if they work for this person and now they're working?
I mean, well, now we're getting into details. I mean, I would suggest nobody on that list so that it's truly objective and an expert in the well business. I could also hear that, but they know the area, they know the wells, they know the water, they know the stuff, and there's a benefit to having them, so.
Maybe Roger
I could
Renner
go-
would do it, I don't know.
Or maybe having two or something, but then we're paying them to, unless they wanna do it in kind or something, no, we can't do
Yeah,
that. All right,
just-
fine.
No, Rich, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we've contacted well drillers, they are super busy and they're doing us favors. Something like this, we're paying them, and then we're gonna have, there's a question of is anybody available to actually participate? And then I think if I was in that business, I would be like, I'm a little bit nervous about doing this because I might piss off a potential customer.
Call Stadola, he's in St. Bonnie. He'll be okay.
I mean, but it gets back to what something Andrea said earlier, or made a comment about, like, now, I mean, so we do all this, and again, it's for good reasons, and it's a good faith effort to live up to the promises we made, to make sure that we are listening, following through with, making sure we're protecting residents and township residents and neighbors and things like that. At a certain point, are we better off giving $1,000? And it's cheaper than going through this process. It's less hit on the bandwidth of staff. So, I mean, is there a dollar amount or a thing that we can do in this process to minimize, no, let me rephrase that. I'm gonna prioritize. Make the folks that are impacted by this feel like we heard them and are compensating them for the impacts that they had to deal with and that they had to pay for or whatever. And then without having to expend exorbitant amounts of dollars to go through this process, are we just better off doing that? So then we shrink that number that are upset by it or would appeal it down to the 2% or 5%, and now we're only dealing with 5 homeowners or residents or whatever.
It's not a counter argument, but I was thinking the same thing, and then it occurred to me.
God, I thought like you.
I got 2 mails for $150. If you would raise it to 1,000, I'm gonna get 100 of them.
True,
People wanting to get in.
yeah.
So,
Well, I think the key is finding out, I mean, doing the testing that we're gonna be continuing to do. We're trying to
Yep.
do this and make sure that we're not having issues.
my gut's telling me you're on the right track with a modest offer to capture the people who weren't impacted that much and a process to review in more detail, materials provided for higher level claims.
Because if 90% of the people reject the $150 offer, I mean, then it's like, this is gonna take forever, it's gonna be more costly and whatever.
You could always go back out and say, okay, based on this, we're gonna try again at 250 or 3 or whatever.
I can add some, I mean, I've talked to most of these people. They either had a lot of expenses or they didn't have many. You're gonna have one group or another.
And I think that's where-
I've talked to most of those people, because they've come to the well testing clinics.
And I think
thought
that's where this
very-
recommendation came from, based on the number of folks that responded to the questionnaires, based on the information. 150 seemed reasonable based on the issues that were found, the documented stuff. So, I mean, maybe we just keep it at the 150 and allow for this other stuff to happen, and we see. I mean, if.
Yeah. The 140 is based on the majority of the type of, it wasn't intended to encompass 100% all of the information received, but it seemed to be reasonable for the majority of the complaints, given the information that was provided at the time. We know, I mean, to Amanda's point, there's always gonna be individuals who disagree with whatever is offered. We could offer $4,000 and there will be people that don't think that that's reasonable. I'm just hypothetically. And they may have a valid concern, but we could evaluate those on a case-by-case basis.
The hard part with,
$50 doesn't cover anything. $500 would cover a plumber visit. So I think that's what you have to think about. So then if somebody had minimal problems, they would only have probably $500 worth of expenses and they wouldn't do the appeals thing. So that would help to cut your numbers down. I was thinking, what would $150 cover? A new filter.
We have a lot of folks that just change it themselves. They didn't call a plumber. So that's where the.
Yeah, based
the
off the
rest of it.
information
Right.
received,
Yeah.
that's what they said that they did. And but I hear you.
Yep.
I mean, so do we wanna beef it up a little bit? I mean, do we wanna go up to like 250 to accommodate those that, or, whatever I don't know what the market rate is for a plumber, hourly wage?
Everything's expensive.
so I think what the $150, we kinda, I mean,
And that
Derek,
included
one of the
time,
guys that works for us, he has a well. He says his filters are about $50. So if you had to change 3 filters during that time period, which, I mean, he said he changes his filters all the time. Certain times, he has to change them more often for whatever reason. And so we just figured during that month, 3 filters, usually people are changing their own filters if it's just an inline filter. That was kind of the justification that seemed right. But again, you're not gonna please everybody. You're gonna have people who, and not saying that, I truly believe most people are honest about things, but, I mean, if the city came out by my house and said that we did this and I had some problems after the fact, I would attribute it to that. Are they from that? I don't know for sure, but I mean, if you're gonna give me some money, I'm probably gonna take it. So.
10?
Yeah, it depends on the system you have. So we got feedback from multiple staff members that are on wells, or people that grew up on wells or used to live on wells, so it was kind of a collective thing. Situations are all different, but we kind of found that sweet spot around $150 for, what we believe based on the information, kind of a typical situation.
But if you want to reduce the amount of people that, to what you were saying earlier of possibly not coming back and just taking it and dealing with that, because they didn't have a lot, do you stay with the 150 or do you go
I mean,
300?
everything we're doing tonight feels, and I shouldn't even say this out loud, it feels arbitrary and I mean, we're just making stuff up as
I
we
feel
go
like
right
we're just
now.
making
And
up
we're
numbers right
dismissing
now.
the I mean, and again, it's just a recommendation, it's just another thing to think about.
I'd
But it's
establish
based off.
some firm boundaries if you're gonna increase it,
Yeah.
so that this doesn't grow into 1,000 people.
Right, right. I mean, we have to.
I mean, I'm okay with just leaving it as is and seeing the response too. I mean, 150
and then seeing who comes back in for the appeals process, right? Is that what you're saying?
I wanted to make sure there's another avenue other than just having to accept or sue. So I think meeting in the middle of something that allows for that other path, I'm comfortable with, and going forward that way.
Okay.
So what does that other thing look like?
What would be the 150?
I mean, as far as that
Oh.
that appeals, that group that would hear people that, feel that it should be something other than $150.
I like the idea of bringing in a Hartman or a,
Let's call it a claim review committee. It's not really.
It's not appeals, no,
You know,
I
it's
don't
it's
like that.
so a claim review committee, let's call it
Right,
that.
that
So
works.
what should that composition look like? We have the acting mayor. There's been lobbying for the mayor.
have you dealt with this before? No.
No, I have not.
Okay. Do you have suggestions as to who you would put on this?
Honestly, if it's coming back to council and Tom is gonna kick me under the table, I would just bring it to staff for staff
Yeah,
to
we
review.
can interview different whoever, if we have a receipt, oh, they did it, let's call them up and see what they actually did and what they found, get more information. Or, boy, this invoicing, we can call a competitor, does this seem reasonable for that? We know enough people to do that.
I had to replace my burnt out pump 4 months after the aquifer test. Okay, probably not related unless there's information they provide from their well driller that can substantiate that. Somebody that comes in and says, I experienced these consistent issues, this was the deal, but I have a $150 filter on my system and I had to replace it, and I've got, the
Here's
receipt.
what my filter costs.
Here's what my filter costs, I can show you, here's my Visa bill, I bought 3 of them, I'm looking for $450. Okay, so you're looking at those circumstances, I think the intent though is you'd be going beyond just verbal presentation, there would have to be some additional information that would need to be provided, and clear, so,
Well-
I guess what I'm saying is, if you're appealing, you're not gonna be able to just call it in, you're gonna have
Right.
to be engaged in the
And
process.
I mean, and it's a good point, because even for the appeals board, and who's on the appeals board now? I mean, we just haven't had one then in a long time then.
think
I mean, cause
you.
I was gonna, no, and that's fine. We just haven't had one in a really long time.
No, we have one coming up, by the way.
Oh, all right, fantastic. But the point is, people don't come in and present that information. They submit the information, we review it, we discuss it, we make a decision, period. So like, I would say too, we're not inviting people to come in and do an interview and a process. Submit the documentation that you have according to the form that we have and the requested information that we have. We may follow up because you said you have this, and then we wanna make sure we follow up. And then we have to have it in on time, but we're not gonna have a conversation. So it's not gonna be, when you say it's gonna be an hour, it could be whatever period of time to discuss with that group. It's not a back and forth with the individuals themselves, is how I was thinking about this.
Maybe not at the time, but I do think that when there may be follow-up questions prior to the review, like we get information, we're looking for more detail, we have some the information leads to additional questions, we need
And
clarification.
you'll follow up before that meeting, the
Correct.
convening of this group, to then go through them all, or a portion of them, however
Yep.
many it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, then we leave it to staff.
Yeah. I don't know
Are
if
we
I-
allowed to talk to the audience to ask a question? Am I allowed to do that? Like ask?
I have a question.
I
I
have a
appreciate
question
all the
for-
progress that you're making, and I think this is great. Part of my public comment was about future health risk, right? You don't know what happened when you ran your aquifer test.
Sir, that's part of the round 2 testing. We're testing for arsenic and mangan, all that stuff. We're testing again. There may be more, so that is a
happens-
separate deal.
What happens if when you do that second round of pump testing, there was an increase in arsenic in the water?
Then we'll know, and the DNR and the DOH will deal with us as what we have to do or not
What
do.
is my repercussion if I take your $150 and my daughter ends up with diabetes?
Yeah, they're separate issues. That
Yep,
is for a
it'll be-
one-time
So
event.
I can speak to
It's
that.
not, though.
I'd like to speak to that. So my recommendation to the council is that, if you're gonna have somebody, if you're gonna pay somebody something, you're gonna want a release from them. That release would be specific to damages incurred in connection with that testing period. It's not, no one is gonna release anything that occurred thereafter, but that's how that release would work, would just be for that testing period.
What we'd recommended is to make it easy for the impacted individuals. We'd basically say, we would describe the $150 is for that, and if you cash it, the working assumption is we don't need to follow up with you anymore.
Okay, but real quick, I
But-
just want to bring something up to Andrea before somebody blows over there, because I understand what you're asking. I totally understand what you're asking. He is asking that within this 4-week period, what if okay, the arsenic, whatever, right? His daughter has drank the water, has had this issue, but then in 5 years down the road, the doctor says, yes, it does correlate back to that, but he cashed that check, and now he can't come back after compensation because it did fall back to doctors, so forth, come back. Now, he can still sue.
He certainly can try to sue. I think that, I assume that he would be able to show that any issues probably occurred continuously after that testing period. I guess that they wouldn't have been just during that testing period.
So then it would be that, it would be a continuation for him.
I would
And
think
then
so.
that would become, he could,
You'd
yeah.
have the ability to sue.
Compared to, I have all our samples too.
Yeah. So basically what would happen is you would still have a case. If something happens, you're still, because it's gonna be a continuation. She just explained. Do you wanna explain it again so he can understand?
I heard.
Okay.
So, but again, like, part of this is, again, the future stuff, right? Like, what is chronic manganese exposure? What is chronic arsenic exposure? I've not seen anything in the research that I've done of, is that 2 weeks, is that 4 weeks, is that 6 weeks, is that 12? If I talk to a patient about a chronic health issue, I'm talking longer than 12 weeks. But if I talk to somebody that's using corticosteroid use, that has a spinal fracture, anything longer than 4 weeks increases their risk 25%, right? And so, but it's chronic, and that's what's reported in the research. So again, like, this is where, who is making that decision, and how are we coming to that? Has the Minnesota Department of
They're not
Health-
in this room. It'll be the DNR and the DOH. They take those sample results and they'll draw their own conclusions. If we need to make changes to our operations or programs or plow the city under, they'll tell us.
And you've already said, though, that they are unwilling in situations like this to give you feedback.
No,
on
they were
what-
unwilling to give thorough feedback on the findings of this test result to see what happened during the pump test. They are all on board as to looking at the long term. That's what the DOH is actually focused on.
But the reality is, I've talked to the Minnesota Department, Tammy and the DNR many times. They don't know, and the research is not there. There's some testing, there's a big nonprofit testing starting to happen with the Mayo in southeastern Minnesota for nitrates and arsenic. But the answers to your questions, the Department of Health doesn't know. And originally, they were more concerned because I spoke to Tanny at the Department of Health. They wanted to go out 5 miles. They wanted more testing. They wanted to see what was actually going on here before they issued the permit. The DNR said no. So that's the real truth, if you want it. So no one is looking at it. That's the answer to the question.
And that's why I bring it up, because I just want this to be a consideration. And I appreciate that you're talking about this 4-week period and you're trying to cap it. And I appreciate that you're willing to go out 3.5 miles. But again, like, if I cash that check, we'll use diabetes as an example. If I have diabetes, my daughter is 50% more likely to have diabetes. If my wife and I both have diabetes, she's 75% more likely to have diabetes. Not diabetic, my wife's not diabetic. She all of a sudden is diabetic at the age of 10. I'm coming back to this because this is the only thing that I can think of in my life that has potentially impacted her health negatively from decisions that I've made.
I respect what you're saying wholeheartedly. I'm a rural Scott County resident. I raised 3 children on my well, on 2 wells in 2 houses. Arsenic is prevalent in Scott County regardless of how close I am to this well. When Scott County notified me 5 years ago, hey, we think that there's, arsenic issues going on in Scott County, and the data shows that, and we've had some my well results were multiples of what was considered normal and healthy. And I mean, I don't know. I'm just struggling to say.
It's hard.
Elko New Market well is causes my 3 kids cancer because it is. You can look at the state's website. You can look at the county's website. It's all over.
I think what
It's naturally occurring.
I think what it really comes down,
Have this conversation.
I think what it really comes down to is you will have to make decisions about what that means for you and your familyhood and the likelihood going into the future. Because there's a number of factors and you'll have to decide, and if there is an issue in the future and you do believe it is, you will need to make that case in the future. But anytime anybody, I get in a car accident, they give me a settlement for X amount of dollars, and I'm like, yeah, I feel fine at the time. I'm making a conscious choice of whether or not there's something that might happen later and whether I believe it was associated with it and whether or not I would be able to demonstrate that in the future. The reality is the city's making a good faith effort to try and address the concerns and issues that people had related to the specific event. This settlement, or this is intended to address what happened at that time. It's not intended to cover, address, research, or make a decision about the long-term related to this.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand from reading the proposals last night, that if I don't cash the check within the 30-day period according to Mr. Revering's proposal, I am indemnifying the city of any wrongdoing.
So that was the recommendation to the council.
So
That
that's
was
where-
not binding.
what we're doing.
That's
I
their decision,
appreciate
and
that,
that
but
they've
again,
already
if
abandoned
that's
that.
the
so-
wording that is coming through, right? Like, how is that?
I'm having
Now-
trouble seeing how we're on a path to making you happy tonight.
But that isn't that.
I don't know what we can do for you here.
I'm not asking to be made happy today. I'm just trying, and this is the point of the email that I sent last June. Have you considered the potential long-term implications of the decisions that are being made? And I understand your point about you're not gonna be able to prevent any future issues. I get in a car accident tonight driving home, my kids end up with diabetes. I appreciate that.
I think to your point, sir, and you've brought it up repeatedly, you've asked whether or not the city has considered the long term. We have. We have considered the long term based on the information that was available at the time the decisions were made. And on top of that, have committed to and are required to do additional work to evaluate whether there are issues that were unknown or unanticipated, et cetera, associated with it. So, yes, based on the information that was available at the time, based on the people that are experts in those fields, yes, the long-term impacts were considered. It was the whole point of the process that we went through. But it was also recognized that not all things are all knowable, and there are measures in place for us to do it. As Corey and Rich have indicated, we are doing additional testing to see, is there things that weren't anticipated that we couldn't know that we are evaluating going forward? And if there's data that comes out of that, the DNR and the Minnesota Department of Health may require us to do additional things, or we may choose to do them ourselves.
It's hard to put a cork back in a bottle as it's leaking.
It's also hard to predict absolutely every alternate
Well,
outcome of
I would say
everything
it's
that
not
ever
hard,
happens.
it's impossible, and it's not gonna happen.
Impossible.
And I'm not asking you.
No. But I mean, I think I don't know, we gotta move forward.
I mean, so what else do you need from us? Clarify exactly what you want us to clarify for you.
So at this point, based on the discussion, what I'm hearing is that we do send out a letter with the general framework that was presented in the staff recommendation with an offer of $150. It would also indicate that there is a process by which they may dispute or request, maybe is a better way to do it, request additional or compensation beyond that for what occurred. And we will have to devise the specifics of it, but staff has directed that that would be a claims review committee that would be made up of appropriate staff and or consultants who would review that information and then make a recommendation to the council. We would do what we can to get the information we need to be able to make a judgment call. And then that it would be presented to the council, and if that individual disagrees with that recommendation, they certainly have the ability, when it's presented to council, to present their case additionally to the people that will ultimately make the decision. That's what I heard.
Is that all you need?
I think the question still remains, based on the city attorney's comment, we'd originally set this up that it was, hey, we're explaining to you, here are the conditions, so we don't have to require all 40 people to go out and sign waiver release forms and all of that kind of stuff. I guess the question that I would like to get feedback from the city attorney and the council, do you feel it's necessary at this point to require the waiver release forms, or are we okay approaching it the way that was recommended?
My recommendation is you get a release form, sign the release, we give you the $150 check.
Check after the release form.
Yep.
So return so we send, what we send includes a pre-stamped envelope with a release form that they can sign and return in the pre-addressed envelope.
Correct.
And when we get that back, we will issue a check.
Yep.
And by not accepting the check or not doing whatever, there isn't a timeline then that, to the point, it doesn't waive rights after, if you don't do anything, no action doesn't equate to accepting and waiving rights
Correct,
to
it
whatever.
just
To that-
means
to
the
that
city-
gentleman's
The
approach.
city's not paying you anything further.
Right.
Right.
This is the deal, it's 150, unless they review your claim and make a separate judgment on it, but otherwise.
So
this is
folks
the
could
cost.
choose, 3 pass, accept the 150, don't accept the 150, come back and follow the claims review process, or do nothing. And
Correct.
still have the ability to take further action into the future, not waive any rights now or
Yep.
into the future.
The-
3 ultimate opportunities.
Yes, and that approach, while more cumbersome and more burdensome, would address issues like the gentleman's is bringing up, because then there's no inferred or stated waiver or release. But they would those individuals would still have to make a decision though of, if I'm gonna take the $150, or something otherwise, approved by the council, I'm gonna be signing off on a release related to that incident.
I'd like the dollar amount to be higher.
What do you propose?
I wanted to be here till midnight, so that's what we're doing. At least double. is where I'm at.
300? I'm okay with that.
And the release form is just for the 4 weeks, nothing beyond, just to clarify.
Just 4 weeks.
That's what the offer's for, so that's what the
Yes.
release.
I just don't love that piece, but I know why we have to do it, so.
How do others feel about a $300 mark instead of 150?
I get it. I suggested a higher rate. I still feel it's like completely arbitrary and made up, and now we're just pulling numbers out of the air. So, I get it.
I did math, I doubled it.
I know.
It wasn't just pulled out of nowhere.
It's like the HS math.
I think what also goes into it, though, is an analysis of whether or not somebody's going to come back at you. Are you giving them enough to satisfy them for whatever pain and suffering they had with putting in the filters and whatnot? So there is some logic to that.
Yeah, there's a reasonable, we, staff, based on their discussion, came up with a number, based on information tonight, based on individual experience. There's a judgment call as to what that number should be.
Megan, how do you feel?
I am very pro 300.
Okay. So going forward, staff will prep the letter that will go out to the complainants plus the individuals that were added tonight. The individuals that had previously not filed complaints will have to go through the process of collecting information from them in order to evaluate. So what I'm hearing from the council is just because they showed up tonight isn't a guarantee of the $300, but it makes them eligible for it. Is that correct? Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Perfect. So that's done?
Just
Yes.
half a page left.
Okay, perfect. Let's move on. Reports, administration.
Okay, I have a 45-minute report with slides. No, really.
Okay, do you need, oh.
Oh, public.
No, we're not there yet.
So, actually, just really quick, city offices Tomorrow we'll be operating in a limited capacity. We're doing a changeover on the network, which means that we will have no phones at City Hall. We have VoIP, so the nice part is people can call, leave a message, and it'll come into our voicemail so we can respond to people, but we'll have no phones, no network, no anything that's network-oriented will be down for at least half the day. So we'll be running limited staff and doing front counter service to the degree that we can without the network tomorrow, but we'll be fully able to respond to emails. We'll be getting voicemails for people that call City Hall. They'll just have to work through the phone tree. And to be honest, we're becoming a less common city because we have people, real people that answer the phones. Most cities put you through a phone tree to get to people nowadays, in my experience. So just so you're aware, we're not gonna go out and say, hey, a big thing about this, because people will still be able to contact us through normal means. It'll just be a little less efficient than it normally is because staff won't be answering the phone, or staff won't be answering the phone. They'll have to leave a message and staff will get back to them. Staff will still continue to be working in their offices or remotely that day.
Okay. That's it.
That's it.
Public Works.
We got trees put back in Wagner and trees in Boulder Heights. We took them out of areas at our shop that we'd have to cut them down at some point in time. So we just had a tree spade come in and transplant them, and I had to sit at the park all day because you can't leave a 7 by 7 by 5 hole open while they dig the hole and then they go get the tree. So other than that, I got nothing.
Perfect. Police Department, do they have anything?
No, everything was in the report. Craig had to leave for a meeting with staff that work after hours, so.
Fire Department.
Tom, maybe pass it on, is to date, we've issued 50 housing unit permits. We have 15 sitting in the queue waiting to be issued. And the apartment building, 36 units, is scheduled to start next week.
Okay, perfect. Fire Department.
Todd didn't have anything specifically to give to me, but we will have to be replacing our Lucas unit. For those of you that aren't aware, that's an automatic chest compression machine. If you've ever taken a CPR class, they'll tell you that an average person can only do CPR for about 2 minutes before they're completely gassed. This is an automatic machine that can adjust and handle it will handle adults or most adults where it can go indefinitely. It's battery powered. The one we've had was donated to us by the Fire Relief a number of years ago. It's at the end of life. We need to replace it. So we're in the process of replacing it. It's one of the items that we've made adjustments in our capital outlay for, but we don't have all the cash, so the Fire Relief has indicated that they will fund this replacement again. So that's awesome, out of donated dollars. Just so you know, that's probably the most notable thing right now. Oh, and the CPR program, all of the trainers have received their trainer certifications, and we'll be talking about the logistics of rolling it out following the test runs with city and Niagara staff.
I have no report.
Nothing beyond what was previously reported.
I've got nothing.
Good presentation. I thought it was very good.
Yeah, how many of you,
Sorry,
how many of the council members were able to observe the panel at the last meeting?
I was on there.
So that was the second in a series related to changes in the fire service to address issues related to it. I sat on a panel for that as the lone administrator along with some of the chiefs in the county. We got very positive feedback from that presentation. Executive committee, most of the discussion at the last meeting really revolved around the feedback that they got from the surveys to member entities about the legislative platform and talking about how that would be rolled out that process would be rolled out through the fall, prepping for the upcoming legislative session.
I-35.
Still on a 4-month hiatus, back next month.
And League of Metro Cities.
Yeah, we had our meetings, the policy committee meetings related to the rental licensing stuff. they're still upset, and by they, I mean the league and Metro Cities and the vast majority of city members. So I was the lone voice, I was the lone voice that talked. I also had several folks that agreed and voted against some of the proposals that some of the northwest suburb cities were going forward with, but ultimately, they tweaked some of the policies in the league. Metro Cities didn't touch anything. So we're teeing up for a fun session of, they're gonna bring forward something, I'm gonna have an amendment ready to undercut them completely, and, we're gonna be dealing with this for a little bit, so.
Has there been any buy-in to the idea of putting together a group of the stakeholders to have honest discussions about fixing the whole wrecked mess?
We had DHS and MDH there at the last meeting, presented. They did a great job. I mean, the cities were looking to get them to give them sound bites, to give them something to go off of. And this is related to the quarter-mile rule now. So they want to expand the quarter-mile rule to apply to all cities, which means you can't have a group home within a quarter mile of another group home, and further limit where people with disabilities can live or choose to live. So they want it to apply everywhere, and we try to talk through some of the rational components to it. But Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, New Hope, Golden Valley, St. Louis Park, they're all, they have their reasons why they disagree with some of this stuff that we're saying, and they're gonna go forward with it, and I think several of us are gonna embarrass them, so, and be okay with that.
Okay. All right. So now we have our public hearing. Open the public hearing at 10:05, correct? Okay. Public hearing is open, and it is vacating drainage and utility easements for New Market School Edition. Is there anybody here on behalf of this public hearing? Anyone? Okay, and then I just close it? Okay, closing the public hearing at 10:05. And now we're on to discussion by council.
We have to pass this resolution.
What?
The resolution?
Oh, sorry.
Anything to note that wasn't in the memo, or anything that is notable, or, I mean, I didn't have any questions.
Pretty
related to it.
straightforward stuff.
Straightforward.
I would make a motion to approve resolution 25-56.
Well, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Now, discussion by council. Sorry, guys.
You're doing great.
Good job tonight.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Good job, guys.